I'm sorry, tonight.
Okay, we're going to start the meeting up, everybody. Good evening. This is the May 11th, 2023 Town of Fishkill Planning Board meeting. Calling the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, we started with well more than a quorum and are ending up right now barely with the minimum quorum sitting, so we can proceed. There may be one or two others who are not in the room right now who may be able to join us, but we also, I wanted to mention that Vijay Gopal S. Kalambi and Kevin O'Connell were reappointed as alternate planning board members at the last, or at one of the recent town board meetings, but they have not signed their oath of office yet. So we have agreed that they wouldn't sit at the dais today. And so let's get going with the public hearing. We have one public hearing scheduled for tonight. That's 1556 Route 52 and 1562 Route 52. Site development plan, special use permit, and floodplain development permit at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. The applicant seeks the following approvals and permits. I'm going to read them to you in a second, but these are consisting of tax parcel numbers 625604, 594281, and 625604, 604282, consisting of 0.35 acres and 0.392 acres in the general business zoning district. Site development plan approval and special use permit approval to construct a 2,722 square foot convenience store with a drive-through lane, an additional fuel pump with extended canopy, parking, and utilizing connections to the existing service station. The existing parcel configuration will remain and continue to be served by an existing well and septic. Site will be accessed by an improved entrance on New York State Route 52 and Pardee Lane, a private right-of-way to the east. Water and sewer service for the proposed convenience store will be via the adjacent fire station project for the proposed convenience. Water and sewer service for the proposed convenience store will be via the adjacent fire station project known as Roundabout Fire District Station 2. Action requires the issuance of area and sign variances from the ZBA. Floodplain development permit approval to obtain a permit for disturbance in the designated floodplain for the development of the project. All right, can we have a motion to open this public hearing, please? Fred moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
Bob seconded it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So we actually have six voting members, 6-0. Thank you. Okay, thanks after all that. Welcome, and if you could just give us a very quick overview of the proposal for the benefit of the public before we ask the public to come up and speak.
Sure. My name's Tom Kivett. I'm with Gunks Holding Corporation. So essentially you've covered a lot of bases there. What exists on site now is a residence. So what we're doing is we're proposing to demolish the residence that's there existing in its place. We will be building a new convenience store with a drive-through around the back. We will also be extending the canopy from the existing repair parcel, the garage repair parcel, over onto the convenience store parcel as well. Various other site improvements, including a ID sign, main ID sign, dumpster enclosure. We're going to relocate the existing propane filling station. And that's it. If there's anything else that you would like me to go into more detail about, I'm willing to do that as well.
No, why don't we see if, let's see a show of hands for any members of the public in the audience who would like to speak tonight at the hearing. Okay, and let me just quickly read the rules of conduct for public hearings before we go ahead. Speakers are asked to come to the podium and identify themselves so that their name may be entered into the record. Speakers are limited to one turn at the microphone. Speakers are limited to no more than 4 minutes, and there will be a warning when there's 1 minute left. Speakers should provide only new or different information or commentary. Speakers are encouraged to submit their comments in writing so that they can summarize their comments during the hearing. Comments are limited to matters involving the business before the board, that is, the particular application under review at tonight's hearing. No verbal interruptions, etc. And that's good for now. All right, so again, if you would like to speak, why don't you come up? So far, I think you're the only hand I saw, so why don't you come on up, and then we'll see if anyone else wants to speak.
All right, my name is Dan Silvestri. I'm one of the commissioners for the Roundabout Fire District, and we are...
Excuse me just a second. If you could just move the microphone in front of you. Yeah.
How's it?
I don't think they're picking you up on.
How's that?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Dan Silvestri. I'm one of the fire commissioners at Roundabout Fire District, and we are presently, as you know, building a new fire substation next to Chestnut's proposed parcel. I was reading the December 8th, 2022 minutes from the planning board minutes relating to the site development and the proposal of Chestnut's expansion. The district have a couple concerns, and I'd like to voice them tonight. Our first concern has to do with the setback distance of Chestnut's signage with relation to our sign. The sign of our sign is 5'6" by 6'3", and is set back approximately 32 feet. Chestnut's sign is a 9x9 sign, is located about 15 feet off of Route 52. Our concern relates to the line of sight of our sign as vehicular traffic travels from east to west on 52, and more importantly, as our fire apparatus is pulling out onto 52 from our driveway, people seeing us. God bless you.
Thank you.
The physical dimensions of height of our sign was as a result of a ZBA variance approval. Our second concern has to do with, I believe it was Mr. Raji, the design engineer for Chestnut, briefed the board about a stormwater management. He stated because it is a gas station, they cannot do any infiltration. And being under an acre, they are proposing to put a single drywall in the southwest corner of the lot to catch the runoff from the drive-through lanes and the parking spaces. He further stated that the excess runoff is going to continue its way down towards the lower areas off the property. The lower area, that lower area is our property, with a water retention pond that was designed by Larry Paggi, our civil engineer, and excavated specifically as a water buffer for the designated floodplain that meets the SWIFT water agreement and easement that was filed with the county, the clerk. Our site plan developed underwent a comprehensive SWIFT assessment, including a drainage study, and it did not take into any effect additional runoff for adjacent lots. We hope the professionals and the board will take a second look at this partial stormwater management. Our third and last concern is Mr. Raji stated that they're proposing to abandon the well and septic on the site, and the convenience store is going to connect the fire districts and connect it to the fire district's pump station, located adjacent to our property line. Up to now, the fire district has an unwritten agreement with Chestnut for them to utilize our pump station. The initial pump station was designed for the sole use of Roundabout Fire substation, and we latter had it re-engineered, and the equipment was upgraded to a municipal-grade pumping station, implementing Everlast Smith and Lovelace design, and it was built to meet the town's current standards and specifications. A meeting was held with the town to take over this pump station once we finished it, and they'll take it over from the fire district. Our chairman, Bill Muller, had conversations with Chestnut's representatives about receiving some monetary compensation so they can tie into the pump station and offset the additional engineering and equipment costs that the fire district has incurred. Chestnut has been, has been agreeable to this up to this point. The fire district was recently advised by our attorney and are presently collaborating with him to formulate a formal written agreement with Chestnut to utilize the sewers pump station for their use as well. We would just like this to be a written agreement, to be a condition of Chestnut's final plan approval. And thank you for your time and consideration and listening to me.
Thank you very much. And that was read from a letter that you submitted. It was dated May 2nd, 2023. So I'm glad that you showed up at the public hearing and were able to read it into the record for us.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public here tonight who would like to speak to this matter? I don't see anybody. All right, well, we are going to talk about this application later in the meeting under project review, so we will try to address some of those points that you raised. What I'd like to do now is to turn to our engineer and attorney to see whether we should close the public hearing tonight with that one speaker that we did hear from. Or are there enough issues that were raised in that letter that we should instead decide to hold the public hearing open until the June meeting? So just a quick question, and then we'll see what the board wants to do. Any thoughts on closing the public hearing?
I recommend that the board close the public hearing.
How about you, Joe?
I agree.
Okay.
We have sufficient information presented.
All right. Board members, thoughts?
Yeah, I would support closing the public hearing. I know the comments were provided, and I believe our consultant also provided a written explanation that we can discuss during the project review.
All right. Any other thoughts on this? All right. Would someone like to make a motion to close this public hearing tonight?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Anthony. Is there a second?
Second.
Jody? Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the public hearing is closed. Thank you very much, and so we'll get to the project review on this just in a few minutes, probably. Well, actually, it might be a little more than a few minutes, but... All right, this next item is a request for extension of approval, and this will be for TL Holdings of New York, 3-lot subdivision. Board to review a request for a 90-day extension submitted by the applicant's representative on April 17th, 2023, of the resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval that the board adopted on December 8th, 2022. So is the applicant present?
I don't see it.
Well, normally, we don't proceed with agenda items unless the applicant is present, but I'll just check with our attorney and engineer. In this kind of a case, there really is no further information on the application, and it's just a question of extending the already approved application. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go ahead and just address that.
Yeah, there's no plan changes involved. This is an extension request. It is a timely extension request. There haven't been any changes that I'm aware of in connection with this application or surrounding area, or any laws that would affect this particular project. And while it's unfortunate that the applicant's representative didn't appear tonight, maybe they misunderstood and thought by submitting the extension request that was all that was necessary.
That's probably the case. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. Well, I guess we'll just ask very briefly if board members have any questions or concerns about this extension, short of not being able to ask the applicant about any details about why the extension is necessary. I think it was indicated that there are simply some remaining conditions that are need to be resolved, and they're just asking for a 90-day extension of the approval.
Yes, their letter, I have it here, looking for Health Department, DOT, and DEC. They're working with all three agencies right now, so in light of that, and the fact that there are no changes at this point, I would make the motion to grant the 90-day extension to TL Holdings of New York Subdivision.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Anthony, seconded by Fred. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that extension is granted. All right, so we actually do have several new submittals that we will go through before we get to the regular project reviews, so shouldn't take too long, but it will take a little bit of time. So the first new submittal is Asefi lot line realignment. Applicants seek to realign the lot lines between Lot 1, consisting of .76 acres, located at 4 Voorhees Drive in the R20 zoning district. Lot 2, consisting of .74 acres, located on Osborne Hill Road in the R20 zoning district. And Lot 3, consisting of 2.57 acres, located at 10 Van Voorhees Drive in the R40 zoning district. This lot line realignment will result in Lot 1 consisting of 1.03 acres, Lot 2 would be 1.01 acres, and Lot 3 would be 2.03 acres. The board will allow informal comments after the discussion of this application. The lot line realignment is submitted pursuant to Town of Fishkill Code Sections 132-46 and 132-47 and has been referred to the planning board attorney, town planning, building inspector, town building inspector, zoning administrator, and the town planning board engineer for their review and comment. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. If you want to just give us a brief explanation of the proposal.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Jason Clerk. I'm the applicant. Currently, we live in the property in the top left in the screen. We also own the lot just south of it. To the right of us, the larger lot is Dr. and Mrs. Sefi. Their residence, they're actually my in-laws. They are now in their 80s and 90s, and in the future we're not sure what's going to happen with the property. And while they still own it, we are working together with them to move our lot line to the east. When we originally built the house, we built it very close to the lot line there. I believe it's about as close as you can get, 20 feet, somewhere in that range. And just knowing that, not knowing who's going to be there in the future, what's going to happen, we're just proposing moving the lot line over about half an acre so that we can plant trees and not have to worry about that in the future if we wanted to create a little privacy or just create a little bit more separation between the two properties. So we've been working with my in-laws who have agreed to everything. They're on all the they've co-signed the plans and everything where they needed to. We obviously had Bob Oswald come out and draw this up. I did act a little prematurely. I did receive the review from your third party just a couple of days ago, and I probably acted a little too quickly, but I got in touch with Bob Oswald, and he has actually given me a new set of plans that have actually a lot of those revisions on there. I also, there was also a couple of questions on the what do we call it, environmental questionnaire that he just wanted changed. So I changed those. I've got copies of all the plans. I've got a USB with the new plans and everything on it, and also the revisions and everything in the letter just explaining what was done with me. I've bought everybody a copy if you want them now, or I'm open to listen to your comments if you want them changed.
Yeah, no, it's, thank you for letting us know that you did make the revisions, but no, the procedure would be basically to submit those to the planning office.
Yeah, Debbie mentioned that. Yep. So that's it. Yeah, it's fairly simple. It's just moving that line across, and just here to bring this up and get it started.
All right, thank you very much. Well, why don't we go to CPL's memo, even though you've seen it and responded to some of them, let's go over them in public, and John, if you could do that, please.
Yeah, thank you. Before I go through any of my comments, I just want to disclose, and I've already discussed this with Mr. Cantor and Dominic, when this property was subdivided back in 2008, I believe, I was actually the engineer of record. I haven't worked for the Assessor's since then. It's been 15 years. This is a pretty simple lot line realignment, so my thought was there really isn't a conflict of interest. John and Dominic agreed, but I did want to put that out there just so if anything were to pop up, you weren't surprised.
Okay, thanks for that.
With that said, again, it's a relatively simple lot line realignment. We did provide a memo. There are a couple things in the seeker document that they submitted that needed to be changed. It sounds like that may have already been done. Per the code, there are a number of items that are not shown on this current plan that are required to be shown unless waived by the planning board. One item that, and it sounds like maybe some of that is done as well. One item I do want to point out, because I was involved with the original subdivision, where the existing lot line is currently, we showed an easement along that for water line connections to all three proposed houses. I'm not sure if the water line was built exactly how it was designed, but once they show those items that are required to be shown on the plans, we'll have a better understanding of whether that easement needs to be adjusted, expanded, revised somehow. My guess is it's going to be, but until we see the revised plan, I can't really comment on it. That's really the only big concern that I have with the project. Otherwise, once they clean up the plan and add the items that are necessary per the code, which may mostly be done already, then it should be a pretty simple process.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll turn to Dominic and just ask you to comment on whether this application meets the legal requirements in the town code sections that deal with revised lot line approvals. I'll just mention, in looking at the actual wording, it kind of appears that the process is supposed to apply to two lots, where one lot is giving property to the other lot, which is receiving the property. I think this application, to me, appears to meet the intent of that law, but maybe not the letter of the law, but I just thought I'd see what you think about that, Dominic.
Yeah, and no, I understand the concern. I don't think that there would be another avenue for the applicant to proceed with, to accomplish the goal of making this particular revision. And so I'm not sure that it's such that would prevent them from moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other recourse would be to file, in a sense, two separate applications with two different lot line revision proposals, but I don't think that was meant to be the intent of the law, and it's a pretty recent law, so maybe we should ask the town board to look at some wording that could address situations like this in the future, but I personally don't see any problem with proceeding.
It would seem to be unduly cumbersome to require a separate application for the same applicant.
Yeah. So I don't know if any other board members, have any other observations on that particular aspect or any other questions on aspects of this proposal?
No, I think doing this in one step as opposed to two, so to speak, makes a lot more sense, and I think Dominic's explanation is good enough for me.
Anyone else have any objections to proceeding?
Nope.
Good, okay. All right, well, our CPL memo indicated that this appears to be a type 2 action pursuant to seeker as a lot line adjustment. Actually, it mentions them specifically, which basically require no further review under seeker. So I think we certainly can tonight go ahead and see if there's a motion to classify the proposed SFE lot line realignment as a type 2 action pursuant to seeker.
I'll make that motion, so move.
Anthony moves it. Is there a second?
I'll do it.
Fred seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that classification passes 6-0. Now, let's assume that basically all of the things that John raised in the CPL memo are addressed and submitted well before the next meeting. I'm not even sure whether we formally have to make a motion to waive a public hearing, because I'm not so sure that there's actually one specified in the code provision for these lot line revisions, but it wouldn't hurt, in my mind, to just make a motion to waive any public hearing for the proposed lot line revision. So if someone would like to move that, why don't we go ahead and do that?
I'll move that too.
Anthony moves that.
And I'll second.
Fred seconds it again. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes 6-0. All right. Well, although there's not going to be any formal public hearing, I just wanted to check, being a new submittal, whether there's anyone in the audience who might want to speak to this matter informally. If there are, can I see a raise of your hand or hands?
Not on this side.
Seeing none, we will move on. And so then the final question is, being an expedited review, should we authorize our attorney to prepare a draft resolution of conditional final approval for the board's review and consideration at the June 8th meeting? Now, again, this would be based on the assumption that all of the things raised in the CPL memo will have been addressed and submitted. But oftentimes, we will authorize the preparation of a draft resolution, and then the board can consider it if all those types of things have been addressed. So I think in the effort to expedite this application, why don't we see if there is a motion to that effect?
Let's get it done. I move.
So Fred is moving it. Is there a second?
Second.
Anthony seconds it. And just ask Dominic if you have any objections to that before we vote.
Oh, of course not. No objections.
Okay.
The one question that I do have is that in John's memo, there is reference to items that could be waived by the planning board in connection with showing on final lot line revision plan. This was the location of existing sewers, or on-site sewage treatment systems, water mains, on-site wells, culverts, driveways, and drains on the property with pipe sizes, grades, and directions of flow. Also existing contours with intervals of 5 feet or less, and names and addresses of tax identification numbers of all adjacent property owners. So if you had already waived that earlier, I missed it, then I apologize for that.
No, we didn't, but let me ask the applicant if any or all of those things are being addressed in the revisions?
Yes, on the revisions that have been done, everything has been done there except for the location of the 2 septic systems. So I was hoping that that was the one thing that maybe could be waived. They're kind of on opposite sides of the 2 properties, so it's on the west side of our existing house, closer to Osborne Hill Road, kind of where all the writing is. There is one septic field. The other one actually is where all the writing is on the other side, to the east side of the other house, the southeast side of the other house, so they're nowhere near where the 2 properties are going to be merging.
If I may, I mean, my suggestion would be that you at least notate that on the plan, if that's acceptable to the board. But I think this plan, of course, it becomes a plat, and it gets filed with the county clerk's office.
Okay.
Anyone in the future reviewing it I think it would be relevant to know that this lot line revision really wasn't encroaching or affecting
Understood.
the septic design. But of course,
Yeah, and I would just add a simple reference to the filed map I mentioned previously could, address a lot of that. However, under 5A, because of what I said with that, with the easement that was filed with the map and the water lines, I think those need to be shown, and it sounds like they may have shown those.
The water.
Part of the subdivision included an extension of a water main up Van Voorhis Drive to serve these 3 proposed lots, the 1 existing and 2 proposed. And the way
So
we...
you're talking about the water main shown on the north side of the property there, needs to be added, is that correct?
And the water main doesn't necessarily have to be shown, but where the water service lines come in to serve your house and the empty lot. And if you have your surveyor look at the filed map, it'll be very clear what was proposed.
Sure. I mean, those are the 2 water lines here? Is that what we're talking about, the speakers there? That service this property?
That's probably, yes, but...
I know our one's there, but that's not shown.
Right, we need to see a little bit more than that,
Okay,
just because
understood.
that easement was created to protect and allow maintenance of those water lines in the future. And if this adjustment is going to then create a situation where the Asepi's house water line is no longer in an easement, then it could be a problem in the future. So that may be the only thing that needs to be adjusted on the plan.
Okay, understood, thank you.
Could we, I know there's a motion out there, but could we authorize the applicant and their consultant to communicate with our engineering consultant just to make sure that that's, do we need to authorize that? I'd like to see this squared away for the next meeting, potentially.
We could authorize that.
I don't know if it needs to be, but...
Yeah, well, let's address the resolution aspect first, and then we could talk about following up. So I don't think what we've talked about changes the motion, which was made by Fred, and seconded by Anthony, to authorize our attorney to prepare a draft resolution. And we had quite a bit of further discussion, so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that passes. John, do you think it would be helpful to authorize you and the...
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I didn't see how the homes and the water lines were put in. Once we filed the map, we were done. But Bob, it's Bob Oswald, I know him well.
Yep.
If he looks at the filed map, it should be very clear where everything is. But if he, you know, I know what was designed, I know where everything was supposed to go. So if he wants to contact me, absolutely.
Thank you, appreciate that, I'll let him know.
Yeah, and the as-built drawing should show everything.
I'm not sure, well,
If there were as-built drawings.
there may not have been an as-built, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we see if there's a motion to authorize our engineer to meet with the applicant's engineer prior to the upcoming meeting. I'll move that myself. Any seconds?
Yeah, second. I brought it up, so I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that is authorized. Okay,
Okay,
so we'll see you at the June meeting then.
great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, the next new submittal is SKLJ Incorporated, Site Development Plan and Special Use Permit. Applicant seeks site development plan and special use permit approval to develop a 2.17 acre parcel for mixed use. The existing buildings on site are proposed to remain and be repurposed. A residential use is proposed in an existing vacant building to be renovated, and a 4,400 square foot addition is proposed to the existing garage for storage use. The remaining building is proposed to be used as an office for storage use. The applicant also proposes to construct a 3,200 square foot self-storage building with 11 parking spaces. The parcel is located at 125 Old Route 9 in the GB General Business Zoning District. This is to refer the application to the Town Planning Board Engineer, Town Planning Board Attorney, Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, and the Rombout Fire District for review and comment. The Planning Board will allow informal comments from the public after discussion of the application. Welcome, Steve. How are you?
Good evening.
Why don't you go ahead and just give us a further brief description of the application?
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, my name is Steve Burns. I represent the applicant. The site is a 2.17 acre site that was previously developed along Route 9 at the time. There's 3 existing buildings on it. 2 of them are, one is a dilapidated residential structure, another one is an existing residential structure, and the third is a detached garage. The original submission when we came in to do our pre-application meeting was to do smaller self-storage units on the property, but the town fees for the applications became quite hefty once you factored in that every building had a $5,000 application fee and $15,000 escrow. So in order to alleviate that burden a little bit, what's now proposed is actually a 4,400 square foot addition to the existing garage. There's 11 parking spots that are proposed throughout the site for the residential and office uses, and there is also proposed outdoor storage that's been screened in the area behind the buildings. That's the area that it backs up to Route 9, which is shown to the left over on the side. Route 9 is actually quite a bit lower than quite a bit lower than our property through here. It's probably 20 to 30 feet in elevation change from the edge of Route 9. If you're familiar with the area, right on the other side of Route 9 is the original water slides for splashdown. And then it breaks off into green fly swamp. We proposed a perimeter fence around the 6-foot fence around the outdoor storage area, so it won't be visible from from any of the neighbors or anything. And I've also provided some photos. This is the residential structure. This is to be proposed to be used for an office. This is the existing detached garage, and that blue structure to the right is the third building that's going to be repurposed as a single family home. This photo is taken from the west side of Route 9. You could see some those trailer bodies are actually on the site in that photo. There'll be a fence along the top of that bank right there, though, so that providing screening for anything that's stored in the area. We've also proposed to screen from Old Route 9. We've proposed some pine trees in this area here, and also to screen our tenant to the north, some pine trees in this area here. Between this structure and this structure, there's actually quite a bit of a rock outcropping that will provide some natural screening as well. We've limited our site lighting to just some wall hung units on the buildings, and kept it minimal. These are the elevations. This is the actual existing garage. This is a 55 by 80 foot addition to that garage. And then this is what's proposed to be done to the blue building in the photo, and the other building is proposed to remain generally the same. The photo. I think that's pretty much everything that I have for you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from board members at this point?
What is the garage going to be used for?
Storage.
What kind of storage? I saw storage. That
the applicant has cars and various. There you go.
So
talking to the
Microphone.
the new garage that we want to put up, we want to have mostly storage, and for my husband and son to do woodwork at it. So some small woodworking projects.
So personal storage, not intended for any business
That
purpose?
particular building is personal storage, yes.
So there is also an indication of outdoor storage. What types of things would be stored outdoors?
Anything from
Bike.
a camper or a boat or something that people tend to store over the winter time and need to put in a different location other than their home.
Is there going to be any signage?
I don't believe so. We didn't really talk about that.
We didn't
but,
talk about any signs.
I wouldn't feel it was necessary.
Okay, and you don't plan on taking down any trees between that and Route 9?
No.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, I get, the other one is you're going to need septic and well, correct? Are we adding additional septic and wells?
There is a septic and well on site that we plan on reusing.
One or two?
There's a shared well that serves the the two buildings. The garage building that's going to have the addition doesn't have water or sewage connected to it. It is not proposed to.
So you're not going to add a second, because you just said a second residential building you're putting up?
We're going to work to either have to use the existing systems as they exist, or if we need to, we will design a new septic for the residential structure.
All right, I think that's something, among other things, that our engineer will look at when this is referred to them. So this is just kind of a very early, but it's good questions to think about.
You said you'll put up a screening so that it's not visible from Route 9, right?
Yeah, yes, there'll be some screening, there'll be some screening up by Old Route 9, so that you can't necessarily see into the back. And there'll also be along the top of the bank, right in this area, we're proposing a 6-foot solid fence.
Where they're going to put the new garage behind the old garage, is there going to have to be a good amount of fill brought into?
No,
level,
it's
or is
actually
it pretty?
It's relatively flat.
Okay.
What happens is that there's a gentle slope down from Old Route 9 to the top of the bank, shown in the photo right here, and then it just falls off.
Okay.
Oh.
And actually, you can see that. You can see the bank right here in the on the site plan.
Okay.
The environmental assessment form indicates bedrock outcroppings on the site, so it probably would be good to show those on the plans if possible.
Okay, the outcropping is actually this area right here, but I can label it.
Yeah, label it and indicate it.
If you're familiar with Route 9, just to the south of this is actually where there's the rock cuts on both sides of the road where Route 9 used to actually cross, when old Route 9 was Route 9, where it crossed the existing bed of Route 9 now.
Okay. Got it. All right. Well, John or Dominic, do you have any questions at this point? I know it hasn't been referred to you yet, but if you can think of anything.
No, it's a little less complicated than what we were looking at during the pre-app meeting, so, but I don't have any comments at this point.
All right, Dominic, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, well, let's see if there is anyone in the audience who would like to make informal comments regarding this SKLJ site development plan and special use permit. Show or raise it by raising your hands if you would like to speak. Don't see anybody.
Not seeing any either.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to accept the application for the proposed SKLJ site development plan and special use permit located at 125 Old Route 9, and to refer this application to the Town Planning Board Engineer, Town Planning Board Attorney, Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, and the Rombout Fire District for their review and comment?
So moved.
Second.
Anthony moves, Fred seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Actually, I was just going to ask, I probably should have asked before the vote, but just wondering whether this should also be referred to New York State DOT just because Route 9 abuts the property.
That's my fault. I usually put that on there.
So let's just do a separate motion to further refer this to New York State DOT. Is there a motion to that?
So
Yes.
moved,
Yeah, I'll
yep,
second
second.
it.
Yeah,
Fred moved it, and Anthony seconded it.
yeah, one of us, one and the other second.
Yeah. One or the other. We'll switch from the way it went the other
Sure.
time. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes 6-0, so we'll add New York State DOT to the referral list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for coming. All right. Let's see. The next and last of the new submittals is Basis Industrial Route 9D, Site Development Plan and Special Use Permit. This is a fairly long description, so I'll read it, and then by the time I'm finished, you won't even have to say anything as the applicant.
They're going to set up while you're reading it, so it might even...
That sounds good. Perfect. Applicant seeks site development plan and special use permit approval to construct a 90,906 square foot, 3-story climate-controlled self-storage facility, a 3,190 square foot, 1-story fast food facility, and a 3,479 square foot, 1-story car wash, parking, drive aisles, lighting, landscaping, and associated amenities. I won't read all the parcel descriptions and tax parcel numbers, but these are located at 8 Ninny Drive. One of the parcels consists of 2 acres. That one's in the GB General Business Zoning District. Another parcel consists of 2 acres located at 15 Ninny Drive in the GB Zoning District. Another parcel consists of 6.58 acres located at 16 to 28 Pappas Lane in the R15 zoning district. And finally, the 4th parcel consists of 0.49 acres located at 1456 Route 9D in the GB zoning district. The proposed climate-controlled self-storage facility, 1-story fast food facility, and 1-story car wash, parking, drive aisles, lighting, landscaping, and associated amenities will be located in the southern GB portion of the property, and no construction is proposed at this time on the R15 portion of the property. The existing Sunoco fueling station and food mart will remain on the site, and the existing Red Pepper Diner and Orange County Transit buildings will be demolished. So this is to refer the application to the Town Planning Board Engineer, Town Planning Board Attorney, Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, New York State Department of Transportation, and the Chelsea Fire District for review and comment. And again, the Planning Board will allow informal comments from the public after the discussion of this application. So before we start, I just wanted to mention that I want to disclose that I live in one of the neighborhoods off of Brockway Road, about a half a mile from this site. I do travel often on Brockway Road and Route 9D, so I'm pretty familiar with the area. But I don't think that I have any conflicts of interest in continuing to be a part of this project review. I can stay independent and impartial, and I do not live adjacent at all to the property, so I'm just disclosing that, and plan to continue to participate in this review.
I'll make a similar disclosure. I also live down Brockway. I'm at Champlain Way, so
But even farther
a little
away.
farther away. But I think everything that John said would also apply to me as well. So just disclosing where we are in relation to the project and the roads that we use frequently. So.
Yes. Okay, so with all that, welcome, and please give us a description of the proposal in your words and anything that we should know about as we move ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is George Alessandrados. I'm an associate at Keenan Bean. We are the project attorneys. With me tonight, I have Rick O'Rourke, senior counsel. I have Zoe Daniel, development manager for the applicant Basis Industrial. Anthony Scavo, the chief operating officer. Not sure if he's here yet. He's on his way, so he will also be here. We also have Jackie Giordano. Oh, Anthony Scavo just walked in. Perfect timing. We have Jackie Giordano, engineer. She's a principal at Dynamic Engineering Consultants. We have Corey Chase. He's an engineer, also a principal. He's at Dynamic Traffic. He can handle the traffic discussions, any questions you have. And we have Chris Michalik. He's an architect. He's an associate partner at SGW Architecture and Design. So we have a whole team here tonight ready to discuss the application, answer any questions. Chairman Cantor, as you read through the agenda, you pretty much discussed the project as it is, but I'll go through it again very briefly. The property is located right to the west of Dutchess Stadium on Route 90. Right now, in its current state, there is the Red Pepper Diner there, so there's a restaurant, there's a gas station with an associated convenience store, there's some residential parcels back there, there's a trucking and a contractor's yard, and there's an Orange County Transit, the fleet services facility. The applicant is proposing to redevelop that property, repurpose the property. The gas station itself will remain with the convenience store, but as you said, it's the construction of a 3-story climate-controlled self-storage facility, approximately 91,000 square feet, a 1-story fast food facility, 3,190 square feet, and a 1-story car wash to be associated with the gasoline fueling station at about 3,500 square feet. The applicant is a contract vendee of the property. Also, as you said, no construction will be taking place on the northern R15 portion of the property. With that being said, I just noticed that we keep referring to it as the northern R15 and the southern GB. Geographically, it's the northwestern GB and the southeastern R15, but all of our drawings, I believe, have Route 9D on the bottom, on the southern portion of it. So when we say northern, we mean the top half as referenced on our drawings. Before I hand it over to our team to discuss this a little further, we did have some additional images and things to share with you tonight, but I understand that we cannot share it on the screen or whatever the case is, so we will be submitting that for the next meeting for your review to have a better understanding. But I will hand it over to our team now. Any questions, we would love to discuss and answer any curiosities or anything.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me just fine?
Yep. Yep.
All right, so I'll keep this brief and hopefully not repeat too much that's been discussed already. If it's okay, I'll try to flip this to the next page. So this is the aerial plan that was submitted with our application for orientation purposes. As was noted, south is to the top of the page with Route 9D running east to west along the bottom of the page. So the entire tract is actually outlined and has that white mask on it, but you can see as bisecting towards the bottom towards Route 9D, that is the GB and R15 zone line. So the purpose and the focus of this application is located north towards Route 9D below that zone line. So as mentioned, on the property today in the northeast corner by the Pappas Lane signalized intersection is a Sunoco gas station and food mart, which is to remain with the project. Adjacent to the Sunoco is a Red Pepper Diner, an Orange County Transit buildings, and a couple more buildings. I think one is a vacant commercial building, and there's 2 residential dwellings actually in this area. The overall tract encompasses about 25 acres, but this smaller portion of the site is just under 5 acres, about 4.88 acres. So as many of you might be familiar with the site, as was noted out there today with those commercial buildings, it's a little outdated. It's essentially a sea of pavement in the majority of the area. Not great site circulation delineated for easy access with multiple access points and curb cuts off of Route 9D. So we're looking here to redevelop the site with some new state-of-the-art facilities. So just flipping through a little bit through our site plan set, this is zoomed in on that northern portion of the property, so you can see the proposed development a little bit more clearly. Again, south to the top of the page, Route 9D at the bottom of the page, running east to west. So as noted, the redevelopment includes a 3-story climate-controlled self-storage facility, a fast food restaurant facility, and a car wash. Again, the existing Sunoco Station Food Mart is proposed to remain with this application. Just to walk you through the site a little bit, looking or starting at the top of the page, the larger building, that is the 3-story self-storage facility. Just west of that building is the proposed restaurant, fast food restaurant, which does include a drive-through facility. And then towards the front of the site is the car wash facility that includes 1 service bay. And generally, we were working with the applicant on the layout of the site. We were very focused on improving the existing site circulation and being mindful of the required setbacks and proximity to nearby residential districts. This redevelopment of the property is essentially various different surface courses and a large mass of pavement without breakup, with some nice landscape islands, as you'd like to see in a mixed-use application. So we're proposing a large reduction in impervious surfaces and substantial landscaping, as you can see in our site plan set when you have an opportunity to review, with the ultimate intention to provide a layout and types of uses consistent with the town ordinance. So development intends to improve the site access along Route 9D by closing several of the access points along the property frontage and provide access to the site via the existing full movement driveway, the signalized intersection at Papa's Lane, proposing 1 left turn, right turn in, and a right turn out driveway along Route 9D for the car wash facility. That's the first curb cut towards the west from Papa's Lane. And then 1 new full movement driveway on the westerly side of the site. All these driveways are under jurisdiction of the New York State Department of Transportation. And then just to move a little bit further into the site, that westerlymost driveway is proposed to be realigned and extend further towards the south for hopefully a future development beyond the GB district. But for now, it serves to provide good access towards the west around the restaurant and drive-through facility and those parking areas, and then towards the east to the self-storage facility, providing nice site circulation that can turn around and go back out to Route 9D. We are proposing pedestrian sidewalks and ADA parking and accessible routes throughout the site for the proposed buildings in accordance with ADA standards. And then beyond that, in our application, we prepared grading, drainage, utility lighting, and landscape designs designed in accordance with the applicable standards. And that's all I have for a brief overview, but if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
I have a real quick question. You
Go
said
ahead.
drive-through restaurant?
Yes, so
Like a McDonald's, are we talking about a fast food, like McDonald's, or?
I'm not sure if there is any known prospective tenant, but I think our attorney or the applicant could better answer that question.
When we appeared at the pre-application meeting, this also was brought up. As far as I understand, right now, there's no tenant secured because there's no approval for any buildings yet. But once a tenant is secured, we'll know sort of more likely what it's going to look like. Of course, you know, different, a Chick-fil-A might have a different, you know, layout or whatever than a McDonald's versus Burger King or a Wendy's. But as of right now, there is no tenant secured to the best of my knowledge, so we don't exactly know who would be there. But it would be something along those lines, I imagine.
And then the other question I have, do you know how many self-storage units we have going up now in Fishkill?
I know.
Top of my head, no.
Well, Fred can tell you. Fred will tell us how many there.
Well, in front of this planning board, we have 3 of them going up.
I think it's 4, but,
What's 4 now?
but who's counting?
Actually, just half a mile south of this place, yeah,
Yes.
there is a...
In front of us today, you know, the planning board. Did you ever look at a different use for that big storage?
So there are 4 tonight. That's quite a lot. They are located in different locations in Fishkill, from what I understand. As far as a different proposed use, we have Anthony Scavo here if you'd like to speak on, or Rick could speak on that as well.
Yes, if I may. Rick O'Rourke from Keenan Bean. As you all know, traffic generation for self-storage is far less intense than many of the other uses that are permitted in this zone. And Basis Industrial are experts in that area and have done a lot of development all around the country. The thought process is that because of this route, it really makes sense for a use of that nature, which is a permitted use, to be located on the property. It's a complement in terms of the other uses that are there. Obviously, we're demolishing the existing diner that's there, and this is a total refurbishment of what that property looks like today. And so, you know, we think that it makes sense. So. And there is an unbelievable demand for self-storage.
We should have it, or future plan on having it here in Fishkill. But there is going one across the street, you do know that.
Across the street
Right across the 84, just right on the other side.
of 84.
On 9D, yeah.
On 9D.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know.
Yeah, it's not across the street, it's about
Well,
a mile
It's about a...
south on Route 90.
South, yeah.
And it's an
half a mile.
application before the board.
Correct,
It's not approved either.
correct.
Is that one of the four tonight? No.
Not
No,
tonight,
you're the only
but
one
yeah.
tonight.
It's
It has come
before the
up.
board.
It has been before the board.
So that makes 5?
No, that's,
Anyway, no, we're straying away from where we need to focus.
Yes. Storage.
All right, well, do you want to fill us in on anything more tonight? This first meeting is generally simply to accept and refer the application, so we don't like to get into too much detail or spend too much time tonight, and we do have a lot of other items on the agenda, but if you think there are other things important that we should know about up front, please let us know.
No, as far as I know, and we wanted to keep it brief with you guys, we wanted to get any preliminary questions out, so as far as I know, we sort of touched on everything. I hope that it's clear that we are trying to clean up the site, make it much nicer. We have some perspectives that I believe you guys have reviewed. I could put them on the screen if you haven't, in terms of just general renderings of what the proposed development would look like.
Yeah, if you have those, that would be good to show.
Yeah.
Because there's a large public who tunes into these every once a month, and I'm sure they would be eager to see these photos, or renderings, actually.
And it looks like Debbie's zooming in for us, so that's, there you go. So, and if you guys have any questions on the architecture too, it's going to be a very nice, Chris, I don't know if you want to come up, and our architect here can also touch on it. The idea is to redevelop the property and make it aesthetically pleasing, make it very useful for the town of Fishkill.
You said that the gas station's staying, and is that getting refurbished at all, or?
The gas station is staying and is not being touched as part of the application. What happens in the future, obviously, we don't know what happens in the future, but the gas station and convenience store will stay and remain as is.
Yeah, we'd be very interested to hear a brief description of the architecture of the building.
Sure. Hi, Christopher Michalak, SGW Architects, 444 North Michigan, Chicago. As you can see on the screen right now, there is kind of an aerial view of the entire site. We're looking down Route 9D. The smaller building on the right-hand side is the proposed fast food, what I'll call an outlot at this point, because it's really not a tenant yet, but we kind of ripped off a Wendy's to just give it a flavor of what it might look like. The larger building in the back, the 3-story self-storage building, it's about 90,000 square feet, 35 feet tall, about 744 units. That building is going to be designed with that accented corner to demonstrate where the place of doing business is. The office will be at that corner below those windows with the orange band. The orange is a branding color. At this point, the project will be a public storage. The first floor will be a masonry base, rusticated masonry, with ephes above that, the 2 stories, and then broken up both physically and by color. The front facade does have a few setbacks as it goes east to west. Just in front of that, the shorter building with the red front is the proposed car wash. And at this point, I believe that we're going to resubmit colors for that because we will have a branded car wash for that one coming down the pipe. But it's one of those automated car wash type, single bay car wash facilities. That's about it as the architecture goes. As Jackie mentioned, as well as George and Rick, we're going to be cleaning up the site, adding quite a bit of landscape, new monument sign to indicate the main intersection of where the storage and the fast food will be accessed from. The frontage will be a lot greener than it is now. I mean, currently it's just kind of like a sea of asphalt. So. That's about it. If there's any questions, I can certainly address.
So that road that is going on the left side of the picture, that's a Brockway Road?
I'm sorry?
The road to the left of the left side of the picture.
The main road there on the left.
That's Route 90,
that's
right?
That's Route 90,
90.
but the road going inside, I'm talking about the road going inside. There is a road you're showing in.
If I had a laser, right?
That road is.
Are you talking, referring to this road?
Not this one, on the left side, left of 90.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just, I believe, another side street across the street. That's not part of our project.
Brockway Road is farther to the north on 90.
Yeah, the signalized intersection is back here by the gas station. The gas station is here. Let's see, so we're on the kind of the west side of the site on this end. The east side is over here.
Are you going to need a light to get in and out?
At this intersection?
Yes.
I don't believe that we're proposing that, but we do have our traffic engineer here to discuss those kinds of issues.
What's the total height elevation of the self-storage?
35 feet, 3 stories.
Yes. Almost looks like more like a warehouse than a storage building. Okay.
Do you have a close-up view of the architecture of the storage building?
Let's see, I've got some elevations that we could probably zoom in. Maybe go to the next sheet there. There we go. This long facade here on the bottom, this is the facade that will face 9D. At the corner on the right-hand side here is what I mentioned about the windows above with some display of some storage doors, and then the office below. It really just sort of uses the architecture to indicate where to go if you're a customer. The rest of the building, like I mentioned, will have a setback at this point and at this point. Again, 35 feet tall to the top of the roof. The elevator overrun pops up a bit above that.
So the total elevation run is like almost 40 feet.
For the elevator overrun, correct.
So I do see in the applicant's submittal letter that there may have to be a zoning board of appeals variance for the building height at the storage facility?
Correct. At this point, the zoning allows for 35 feet, but 2 stories. So we're asking for 35 feet and 3 stories.
Okay, any other questions on, at this point? We'll get into a lot more detail at the June meeting. I would like to hear very briefly from the traffic experts on this. Just spend, a couple of minutes on that. I do understand that we have a traffic impact study submitted, so that's something the board will obviously have to take a very close look at.
Certainly, and I'm Corey Chase with Dynamic Traffic. As Jackie alluded to as part of her testimony, one of the primary benefits of the redevelopment of the property is the consolidation and formalization of the access to the site. You know, as Jackie mentioned, there's multiple access points that currently exist along the site frontage today. We're going to be cleaning those up and really formalizing and consolidating them as part of this redevelopment application. The car wash, you know, is going to be ancillary to the existing gas station and convenience store. So the access to the car wash will be handled through a reconstruction of one of the existing driveways to the gas station and convenience store. And then the self-storage and fast food use will have its own primary access point further to the west along Route 9D. We did do a traffic impact study that was submitted to the town as part of the site plan submission, so we look forward to working with the town's engineer as far as receiving those review comments. I also obviously look forward to working with New York State Department of Transportation. We're going to need a commercial highway work permit for the proposed driveway modification, so we're looking forward to working with those as well. To answer the question previously about would the driveway for the fast food and the self-storage require a traffic light, as was mentioned, the volumes associated with the self-storage facility are so low that even when you add them on top of the volumes expected to be generated by the fast food restaurant, they don't rise to the level that would actually meet the threshold for signalization of that driveway. The Department of Transportation has volume thresholds that you actually have to exceed to allow the installation of a traffic light. So this wouldn't rise to that level. We are contemplating there's the existing hatched gore area that separates Route 9D along our frontage in that area. We are contemplating actually turning that into a two-way center left turn lane or possibly a dedicated left turn lane. So you'd actually have back-to-back left turn lanes from the adjacent signal at Brockway Road, just basically restriping that gore area there to repurpose it as a left turn lane into this site. But those details will all be worked out through consultation with the town engineer and consultations with DOT as well.
Is that a two-lane highway at that point in time?
It is, so it's one lane in each direction.
So 2.5.
Well, you have the gore area, the hatched striping area that separates the two directions of traffic there. So again, the thought is you have that existing excess pavement in that area. You could actually provide a left turn lane so that vehicles would have an exclusive area to turn left into the property when they're heading in the westbound direction.
All right, well, thank you for that brief view into it. I'll ask board members if anyone has any other questions at this point on anything we've heard or seen tonight.
I'd like to say I do appreciate the applicant providing a very detailed initial submittal. I think that's going to help with our consultants as they begin their review. I think having the traffic study up front is very helpful in getting that process started. With that said, I'd like to just kindly petition the town board to consider discussing, at the very least, the number of self-storage facilities that are being proposed in this town. I don't know if they will choose to take any action, but I think they should at least discuss it. There's quite a few, and I don't know if that's necessarily what the town's looking for as a whole, so I believe they should discuss that. I know that doesn't involve our review per se, it's just a general comment that I have. I would also kindly ask the zoning board to take a hard look at the height variance. I think, but again, that's not for our board to consider, but one that's a concern to me. So I have a lot of other technical related comments, but I'm not going to bring those up tonight. That's something for the next meeting.
Any other questions or comments? Jody, do you have any questions on this so far?
Anthony, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
Literally, those were the two things.
I don't think I should be sitting between you two then.
So that would have been, I would have said the same thing.
And just to, I appreciate the comment, and just to clarify, the height variance, we're not proposing to exceed the allowable, the permissible height in feet. It's just a matter of, I think it's 2.5 stories versus 3 stories. It's always that half story that gets you, right? So we're at that 35 foot if it was 35 feet and 3 stories, we wouldn't even need that variance. But, you know, as the project develops, we see what comes up and we address it then, but I appreciate the comments.
And that's for the zoning board to
Yes,
figure
of
out,
course,
just
yeah.
a general comment.
Robbie?
I agree with Anthony about the number of storage units coming up in the town. I mean, maybe it makes business sense, I don't know, but yeah, the town board should look into that.
Bob, any questions? Well, let's see. I have a few observations that I'll go through quickly. First, there were a number of items in the environmental assessment form, Part 1, that look to be either incomplete, incorrect, or not answered. So we won't spend time on those tonight, but we will have our consultants at CPL help us out going through the environmental assessment form. So regarding the traffic on Route 9D, I think everyone's pretty aware that 9D is a pretty difficult road, especially at certain times of the day, and also it's real close to the Duchess Stadium. When there are events there, a lot of traffic generated. So the board will definitely need to take a close look at traffic, access, and circulation. You know, at that signalized intersection at Brockway and 9D, it can be a very difficult and dangerous intersection, actually, when there's congestion there, peak hours and other events going on. I must say I've seen quite a few very near accidents happening there where people, especially heading southbound, when the light is about to change, trying to jockey into position to go into the decreasing lanes from 2 down to 1. And so having a pretty large, complicated development like we're talking about at that intersection is going to have to take a lot of thought and, you know, some real probably modifications in that area of the roadway to make it work. So we'll definitely need to take a real close look at all that. Well, I was just going to mention that, Fred. Do you want to mention it?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Well, the town board just adopted an update of the comprehensive plan at their May 3rd meeting. And among other things, the plan identifies the need specifically in this area for sidewalks and other pedestrian improvements. And pedestrian safety is also a major concern at this intersection, with not very good crossing at that intersection now, and you know, probably not so many people, I'm sure, will be walking to the self-storage facility, but or the car wash, unless they don't have a shower in their house or something, I don't know.
You never know, you never know. Multi-purpose.
But a fast food restaurant does actually attract people from nearby neighborhoods who may or may not drive there, and either way, it's going to need some close looking at. But getting back to the need for a sidewalk on Route 9D, that's one of the main focuses of our comprehensive plan update, so I think we're going to all need to work closely with state DOT and figure out what can be done regarding a sidewalk in this area and other pedestrian improvements. And yeah, it's a complex project and a lot proposed on the site. You know, many details to review, a lot of questions are going to come up with regard to the currently proposed uses, and also what may be down the road in terms of future development on the residentially zoned portions of the property. So I'm going to recommend to the board that we specifically refer this application to CPL's senior planner, Liz Axelson, for project review assistance. So when we do the motion on the referral, we'll see if we can do that. And also with CPL's traffic engineering expert. I think we'll need to specifically refer that to them for the traffic impact study. So that was about all I had for now. I don't know if there are any questions from our engineer or attorney at this point. But I know you haven't really had a chance to even look at plans yet, other than what we've seen tonight.
I think it was a thorough and helpful discussion tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think the main, or the key items here are traffic impacts and interior site circulation. Also, I just wanted to mention, I know Jennifer Mishinevich has done a lot of our previous traffic reviews. She recently left CPL to go work for the DOT. We have another person who worked directly under her for many, many years, and he's done several of these for us as well. So that the new person who will be reviewing on our behalf is named Dave Hastings, and I can get you all his contact info. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, John. All right, well, let's see if there's anyone in the audience who would like to make informal comments on this proposal tonight by raising your hand, if there are any people. And again, I don't see anybody here to speak tonight on that. So let's go ahead and, unless there are any other questions, see if there's a motion to accept the application for the proposed basis industrial Route 9D site development plan and special use permit located at 1456 Route 9D, 8 and 15 Ninny Drive, and 1628 Pappas Lane, and to refer this application to the Town Planning Board engineer, Town Planning Board attorney, Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, New York State Department of Transportation, Chelsea Fire District, CPL's traffic engineer to review the traffic impact study, and Liz Axelson, senior planner at CPL, for review and comment. Is there a motion?
I'll make it.
Was that Fred?
That's me.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was, I heard Bob there, loud and clear. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes 6-0, and we will have a much more complete discussion with input from our consultants at the June 8th meeting.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. If I could just also respectfully request that the planning board authorizes circulation of the notice of intent to declare lead agency on this project.
I thought you were going to ask that. The answer is no, we don't do that at this first meeting where we are simply referring the application. We will want to hear from our engineer and attorney on that, and so we'll do that at the June 8th meeting, hopefully.
Understandable, appreciated. And then just one final question. I heard it mentioned earlier, do we need some sort of permission for our consultants to consult with the town consultants? And if so, do we have permission for the consultants to consult?
Well, I think it's a little bit early for that. I think what we should do, rather than have any communications, is let this be referred to our consultants, let them get their own understanding of the project. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities down the road, so to speak, for communication like you're speaking about, but I think it's premature at this point.
Understood. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I hope I remember to come back.
Yeah, don't go too far down.
Yeah, we won't let him.
We're going to leash you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're back to the ongoing project reviews, and we are back to 1556 Route 52 and 1562 Route 52, site development plan, special use permit, and floodplain development permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on April 26, 2023. So I think primarily what we want to at least start off with is asking our conflict engineer, Joe Berger, to summarize the very good follow-up memorandum that you submitted to the board, and this is largely addressing the comments that were made by the fire district.
Yes. So basically, the three separate items the gentleman brought up in his letter and I commented on. The first was the line of sight for the signs. It's basically a DOT issue. It's site distance. It's going to be covered by their permit. As long as they have the site distance that allows the fire trucks to come out, for the cars to go back and forth, the location's fine. And that will be totally vetted by the DOT during our permit process. The second was the drainage, which is part of this planning board's privy to look at. We'd asked them for, and they had provided a drainage study. First, it's under 1 acre, so a stormwater pollution prevention plan is not required. But for seeker, we do look at drainage, and they provided a thorough drainage study showing the pre and post and how they were going to treat the stormwater for peak and volume, not for quality. The stormwater report does show a slight increase in peak. However, they provide both a dry well or a level spreader, depending on where on the property it is, to collect and store the water to meet the pre-post requirements. So even though the concern of the district is valid, that they're concerned that additional stormwater will go into their pond, stormwater from the site is allowed to drain there as long as it drains there at the current level, which this report states it does. So there will be no appreciable difference, because there's always a slight difference. There's no such thing as exact. But the stormwater report shows their mitigation will mitigate their increase. It's about 7,000 square feet of increase in impervious will be handled by these two practices. The third was the issue of an agreement being part of the conditional approval to be connected into the sewer and water. I think that's a good idea, but that's a legal issue, so I defer that to the planning board attorney. I can answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, well, let's give the applicant a chance to weigh in on those issues first, and then feel free to mention anything else that you would like to. I know you submitted the canopy details also that we asked for, so if you have any comments on that as well.
Okay. I'm Eric Rogie with Hudson Land Design. Figure I'll let you know who I was first. I'll run down pretty much where we're at with technical issues on the project. The DOT, we've resubmitted the plans to them for review. We haven't heard back yet, but the site distance that was brought up will be part of that. We'll look into any site distance to neighboring properties as well when we do our investigation. We've also spoke with the health department about the water and sewer services. That they had sent out an initial review letter saying that all wells and septics had to be abandoned on both parcels as part of this project. And it looks like we can connect the convenience store to the water main stub from the fire district. So we have a good connection there. The service, the vehicle repair building, there is no water main available for them to tie to, so we're going to have to put a note on the plans that says when a water main is available that they have to tie to it. There's a water main project going on that it's unknown when that water main is going to be installed in Route 52. So we can leave that, we're going to have to leave that as a future item to be handled. Septic, there's an existing septic for the repair shop. The health department has said if we investigate it and confirm it works properly and design a reserve area, that it can remain in use. So we're exploring options as to how we can handle that sewer. We're looking into it, potentially tying it to the pump station. I don't know if that's even an option, but we're looking at all the options. Stormwater, I also looked at that, just like Joe looked at it. That it looks like that entire area of the party lane drains to a low point behind the fire district, behind their new building. So we are following the existing drainage conditions, and we've added 2 practices, though not really required. We put them in anyway. There's a riprap swale here with a weir along it that'll provide storage in the stone and below the weir, and we have a dry well that can handle the clean runoff. So the combination of those 2, volume-wise, will handle any increases from the increase in impervious at the site. So I think those 2 things handle that concern. That's
All
about
right.
That's about it on the update.
Okay. Any observations or questions from board members?
Where's the existing
Fred, I'm sorry, could you use the microphone?
Where's the existing septic on that? Up for the house and for the building? Because you have 2 different ones.
The repair center, we believe it's in the back here. It's not visible on the surveys, but based on some old maps, it was in the back of the building right here. And the house, it's not shown on this plan, but that's going to be removed. That's right in this area. That will be gone.
So you're going to build over and put the blacktop over the septic?
We're going to remove whatever's in there and make sure it compacts properly. I don't believe it's a huge field. It might be a seepage pit. I don't think there's a lot underground to be removed. It's old.
I do have a concern with that, but it's, because I don't think you're going to be able to hook into the sewer.
Oh, we have for the repair building? Is that what?
For either one.
Well, we have an agreement with the fire district to tie into their pump station. It's
For the convenience store, right?
Yeah, just for the convenience store at this point, but it's already been designed to take into account the flow, and they're working on the legal language for the agreement to tie in.
Does that tie into the pipe for the going into Beacon? Is that what we're talking about? I'm confused now, Mr. Chair.
Well, I don't know the answer to that.
I didn't believe that they had approval to hook into the sewer line. They were bringing water across. And I need some help. And I don't believe that they were hooking into the sewage line going into Beacon. If not, they're putting their own septic in?
No, I mean, the engineers can,
We were told that they had permission to tie into the into the fire district, and their only concern was that any legal documents would be part of the condition of your approval, so they made sure the legal documents were done. That's their only concern in the letter, and that's how we understood it. It's not that they couldn't connect, but they wanted to make sure that all the agreements, maintenance agreements, and legal documents were in place before you granted site plan approval.
and my understanding is the fire district will be building a new sewage pump station.
Correct.
Which this convenience store or gas station applicant is proposing to tie into that for the sewer connection from the convenience store only at this point.
So, Mr. Chair, you probably would quantify that in your conditional approval, that such approval to construct the new building would be based on that pump station being up and approved. And I'm sure that will be part of the legal recommendations.
Yeah.
Together with an agreement, to actually make that connection.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep. And that certainly was one of the fire district's requests to
Yes, it was.
include
Yes.
that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was on their letter just requesting that any of those agreements be part of your conditional approval.
Right. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, on the Health Department for the existing building, that is common for them to ask for the existing systems to be proven out by the engineer. So it's more of a administrative and process. It's not unexpected to have that as part of it. And one of your conditions would be to have Health Department approval prior to.
Right. Bob?
Because I don't have my computers lit up. Like, what's the space in between where the pumps are and those parking spaces in front of the convenience store? Like, yeah, right there.
What about it?
How much space is there? What's that?
There's, to the canopy, it's 20.3 feet to the canopy. The pumps are further set
I'm just
in.
trying to see, like, if it's a height of bustling, like, people are trying to come out from that gas under the pumps and somebody trying to back up. So it seems a little congested, but I guess it's...
The pumps themselves are further in.
Huh?
The pumps themselves.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying, you know, just a thought process, and, yeah, and then, I don't know, I heard him talking about before about the signs and lining up and stuff like that. Are you guys kind of trying to work that out with them, or?
Well, that's related to the site distance, so I think the concern is fire trucks leaving, looking to the right, their view would be blocked, right? Am I correct? Okay. Yeah, so we'll make sure that the sign is not in that path.
And that's all part of the DOT approval. They have to show that anything they put within the right-of-way doesn't block any site distance, not only on the main road, but any other entrances that exist at that time.
Is there any possible opportunity for maybe moving the sign back at least a few feet from where you're proposing it right now? I know it was moved back initially when, in order to meet the zoning setback.
I know it meets zoning right now. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they'd be willing to move it back any further, but I will have to look at the site distance and see. It might not be a concern once we look at the site distances.
Yeah, I mean, just preliminarily on AutoCAD, since we are removing the house, it opens up a large view from Route 52 heading west. So we're not really sold on what the issue is for blocking the fire department sign. They are signalized for their apparatus to stop traffic and exit the site. And again, we still have to go through zoning for the sign and DOT approval for the sign, so it's still, you know, these are all options. We can look at it, but we'd like to see something on a plan first that actually shows what the issue is, so that we could visualize it better.
Okay, well, yeah, we as a planning board don't want to be causing any additional problems for the fire district. You know, the public safety is certainly foremost in this particular case. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think we're good for now. So we held the public hearing a little bit earlier tonight, and we closed that hearing. I think my question to our attorney and engineer and then to our board members would be, we were asked to hold off on reviewing the secret documents tonight, so we asked Mr. Berger to, you know, hold off on submitting those to us, but does it sound like we are ready at this point to reauthorize our engineer to prepare a draft EAF Parts 2 and 3 and a draft determination of significance at the June 8th meeting based on what we've heard tonight? And first, let me ask Mr. Berger in particular, since you would be preparing those for us.
Okay.
Do you think that it would be appropriate to reauthorize them tonight?
I believe so.
How about you, Dominic?
I agree.
Board members?
Agreed. I think any changes that may arise are not going to affect the documents being prepared.
Mhm. All right, well, let's see if we can get a motion to that effect. Would someone like to move authorizing the preparation of the seeker documents for the June 8th meeting?
So moved.
Anthony moves it. Is there a second?
I second.
Ravi seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that passes 6-0. So in that light, I'll ask the follow-up question whether it would be appropriate to authorize our attorney to prepare draft resolutions. That would be preliminary and conditional final approval for the site development plan and special use permit, and then a separate resolution for the floodplain development permit for the June 8th meeting. And then, of course, depending what happens with the seeker documents, the board could take a look at that draft resolution and then move ahead accordingly. Is there a motion to that effect? Or is it premature at this point?
No, I think we can have them prepared. We don't have to act on them, but I think having them would be appropriate, so I'll move it.
All right. So moved by Anthony.
I'll second it.
Fred seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, that passes 6-0. So I think, we'll take a look at all those documents at the June 6th meeting and then see where we stand.
Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Make sure John comes back. All right. Not too bad. All right, the next project review, Appalachian View 4-lot subdivision. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on April 26, 2023. Welcome back, Mr. Burns.
Good evening.
Please give us an update on the plans.
So I went through the plans and took a real good look at some things, including the driveway location and the site distance. Went out and visited the site and physically checked the site distance in the field. I've worked on this site for a long time, so that's been one of my big concerns from the beginning. As I looked at the site plan, I also looked at other locations for the driveway entrance. The reason the driveway entrance is where it is because in front of the parcel is the ridge line of a hill, and what I did was I put the driveway right on that ridge line, because the ridge line actually limits your sight distance in one way or another. If you go to the west, you can't see the other side of the hill, and if you go to the east, you can't see to the west over the ridge. If you look at the map here, this front line right here, I believe is 190 feet, give or take. Our driveway is located right at the point on line. If I take this if I take you to the grading plan here, you can see right here our driveway lines up with the top of that, right on the top of that ridge line. So you're looking downhill to the west, and you have plenty of site distance to the west, but you're also looking downhill to the east, and we have about 230 feet plus or minus that way. It does move a little, it will, that's about the optimum that we could achieve from the frontage of the site. It's slightly off of where the existing driveway is to the site. Now, the existing driveway kind of lines up better with the front of the existing garage right here. But, so I left the common driveway entrance at that location for those reasons. If I did relocate the common driveway entrance, the second best place would be here, but we would be reduced to about 175 feet of sight distance to the east, looking east. So I found that the other location was with the extra 60 feet, and at the same token, it would be a downhill approach if I moved the driveway. If I moved the driveway along this property line where Lot 4's strip comes in, the approaching traffic would be coming downhill. Whereas in this location, approaching traffic is coming uphill from both directions. So you have the benefit of gravity helping you slow down the cars. I graded in the driveways and showed the septics. There's a little bit of confusion on the well for Lot 4 is actually located in the 50-foot strip for the frontage for Lot 4. Lot 4 is proposed to have a 50-foot strip that runs from, this is Lot 4 back here in the back of the parcel. It runs up the stone wall on the side of the parcel, and there's an existing well that was drilled for testing for a previous project that we're gonna reuse, and that's gonna service Lot 4. As far as the existing well and septic go for the existing house, they were both buried. The existing house has been since removed. I can do a little bit further investigation to try to find the septic, but I can't guarantee that I'm gonna be able to find anything. I did update the plans to add an existing conditions survey, which reflects all the structures that have been, I've taken off any structure that's been removed from the parcel. Before, there were 6 or 7 rundown sheds, a building, a pool. All these things were on the parcel. They've since been raised and leveled and cleaned up and are no longer on the parcel. So I took them off the existing condition survey so that to avoid confusion with buildings that don't exist anymore. Let's see. I went through. I added one pull off to the Lot 1 driveway in this area, and then enlarged a little bit of the turnaround for emergency vehicles. And I also provided 3 pull-offs for the common driveway. One at station 200, one at station 400, and then one's just on lot number 4, and that's at station 600. The parking areas have all been arranged and graded so that they will so that their impervious surface will sheet flow over the lawns and into the rain gardens for each one of the respective houses. The total disturbance on the is roughly 3.5 acres, which is under the 5 acres for a full SWIP, so we will only have the quantity portion and the erosion and sediment control portion for our stormwater pollution prevention plan. If anybody has any questions or...
All right, well, why don't we go to CPL's engineering memo and then see if the board has any questions.
Okay, I'm not going to go through every single comment. Some of them are general housekeeping items, but there's one minor item regarding the EF that we noted that needed to be corrected. The general comments are items that would probably be applicable to final approval, so I'm not going to go through those. Although, the sooner that you can meet with the fire department to talk about the driveways and the turnarounds, the better. We noted that one of the wells is going to require a separate easement agreement because it's not on the same lot as the house is.
That's not true.
Oh, it isn't? Okay.
That's what I just explained about.
Okay, I might have missed that. But
The well for Lot 4 is located right here.
Oh, okay.
And it's in the 50-foot strip for
Gotcha.
Lot 4.
Right, okay, so we'll get rid of that comment. Let's see, site distance. I agree with what he said about having the driveway ideally located at the right where that sharp turn is. And our code currently doesn't state a minimum site distance, so we cited a couple of different references that we would typically use. There's no way they're going to be able to meet the AASHTO requirement of 335 feet. But what I would suggest is, because your site distance to the east is the limited one, right?
Yes.
But the approach from the east is, you're coming up a pretty significant hill there, aren't you?
Yes.
So.
And you're coming off of Cedar Hill, which is less than 500 feet.
So I would suggest that you just, in your response, use that to your advantage, because that makes a huge difference in the amount of sight distance you would need, because a car, if coming up a hill, is going to be able to stop a lot quicker than a car going down a hill. I mean, I don't think there's anything else they could really do to improve that. I mean, the geometry of that existing road is what it is. And I believe by law, and maybe Dominic can weigh in on this, they are allowed to have at least one site access point, and I do believe they are showing it at the right spot. So I would just like them to add a little bit more to their discussion about why it makes sense there and why the amount of site distance they have is probably adequate. I'm not going to go through, there's a number of comments we made about the driveways and suggestions on showing or reducing some of the curves in the driveways. And then the basic SWIP that was provided, we reviewed that. We had a number of comments on that, but certainly nothing that we would consider showstoppers for this.
All right. Thanks, John. Any questions or observations from board members?
I use that road every day, since I live off Cedar Hill. All right? And I agree, it's a real sharp. The only request I think I'd like to see is we can put a sign up saying driveway, because a lot of people who do use that are not familiar with where that where you plan on putting a driveway. And if they don't know about it, I mean, no one's going to speed going through that pond. If they speed, they're going to go, you know.
Happens all the time.
Yes. So, my only thing is, I don't know if we can request or demand or whatever, to have a sign put up that there's a driveway entrance, and at least let people know.
At a minimum, we might be able to post one towards the edge of our property to the west. I'm not really sure about what we could do to the east.
Well, I think you can request the town to put it up.
It's a user road on the north side of it. The property line for that parcel, I believe, extends into the pavement from previous work I've done. So I'm not sure about posting signs on the north side of the road. And also to the west, the neighboring lot, the town line crosses right next to, I forget the name of the cul-de-sac right there on to the west.
That's in Fishkill.
The entrance to that road, I believe, is actually in the town of Wappinger, but the majority of the road itself is in the town of Fishkill, and including all the houses on it. The town line goes through at a skew.
Because that is a real dangerous curve.
No doubt about it.
Huh?
No doubt.
Yeah.
I actually visited the site the other day, earlier this week, and took a look at, the approximate location of that proposed driveway entrance, and it's tough, very tough.
I do want to mention that also is that I'm proposing that we probably put in, we're going to do a little bit of fill, probably like 2 foot of fill for at least the 30-foot apron for the driveway, so that we sit up a little bit higher on our property. It'll give us just a little bit more sight distance, because we could look down the hill a little bit further. That hill is a little bit complicated. It has, if you're coming from Cedar Hill Road heading west, it actually goes up really steep and then gets a little bit gentler, but it makes like a hump in the road that kind of blocks out the sight distance a little bit. So by lifting up the area where we're going to be at the end of the driveway, it gives us a little bit more look over top of that hump.
Debbie, I don't remember whether we referred this to the town highway department for review.
I believe we did. If you give me a few minutes, I can.
I guess my question would be,
Did we get any comments? No.
or whether you maybe have or could reach out to the highway department to get their input, look at the current plans. I think if it was referred, it probably didn't even include your revised location of the driveway. So it probably would be a good idea to, see if you can maybe walk it over there and, make an appointment and see if you can get some direct input from the highway people.
I can definitely reach out to them.
Yeah. I'll just mention at this point, we received an email dated May 5th from Scott Chesak, who's a neighbor of the proposed subdivision. Did you see that? I think we
Yes, I
sent
did.
that on to you, yeah. So he's got two major concerns, I guess. One is the site distance question, which, well, I mean, his main concerns really were the trees, the mature trees at the lower part of the site, particularly on Lot 4. But also, when I went out and looked at the site the other day, I didn't walk into the property so much, but from the top of the property, you can tell that there are some very significant trees at the bottom elevations, pretty much not just Lot 4, but all the way across, the boundary with adjacent.
The pine trees down there, from what I gathered, searching through aerial photos were, it looks like the pine trees were planted in like 1980, 1979. If you go through and look at the historical aerials from Dutchess County, there's a couple little splotches of trees, like maybe 3 or 4, but there's almost like they put in windrows and planted trees in there at the time that kind of show up, and I've been through all those trees because I've physically located the wetland flagging. So those trees are actually laid out in a linear pattern, like they were planted for a purpose. Up until then, it was the whole area was up until the 1980 aerial. The whole area was just farmland.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in any case it would probably be prudent to add, the information on the existing trees onto your plat, and so that the board can get a better idea of what's actually in there, with sizes of significant trees. And interestingly, we don't oftentimes get actual suggestions from neighbors on how to redesign a subdivision, but Mr. Chesak had such a proposal, which would basically change the entrance drive into more of a cul-de-sac type of an arrangement, which would, in effect, I guess in his mind, make it easier to preserve the existing trees at the bottom of the property. But I think it does raise some other interesting questions about building a road like that. And, would it be a town road? I don't think so. I don't think the town would want to take over a road at an intersecting point like that on an existing town road. Are there other ways to do a road like that using the cluster conservation subdivision provisions? Well, maybe, I don't know. But, I think the main point is, are there ways to preserve the existing trees as much as possible down at the bottom of the site? And at the same time, are there ways of further improving the site distance situation on the town road? And you've mentioned one of them, so.
A lot of the reason for my layout is due to the existing site conditions, which includes the 2 test wells that are existing that we'd like to reuse. Their locations along with the high groundwater table in this area of the site, adjacent to the wetland and everything, in the bottom area of the site, just along that tree line, there's indications of high groundwater table, which would not work well with the septics. So it's really a matter of working out the septics and wells in their separations that kind of dictate where the lots and the houses actually fell.
This gets me to, back to what I had raised at one of the earlier meetings, where it was determined that this site is within the town's aquifer protection overlay zone. And I had raised back then the issue that this site may be subject to a maximum residential density of 1 unit per 120,000 square feet, or in effect 1 unit per 2.75 acres, because there are no hookups to public sewer or water. So that's the way that code provision in the town code works. So I think we're going to need to really take a close look at the overall layout of the subdivision, and, you know, whether 4 lots actually are going to work based on all the things that we've been talking about, and whether it may be actually better to go to a 3-lot layout. It might at least help reduce the overall situation regarding the site distance at the road. I mean, 3 is not as bad as 4 houses in that respect. It might also help to preserve the trees at the lower end of the property, and it might just help to... So I know I'll go back to the original earlier subdivision that was approved for, what, 10 lots?
Yes.
Which...
we did have...
which I can't believe, but yeah, I was on the board at the time.
Which had water.
Do we have...
Yeah, I think there was...
We had sewer.
I think there was going to be...
You were bringing water across.
No, we were bringing sewer out. Water wasn't available because it wasn't brought across the bridge in Breakerhoff at the time. I don't know if it is now, but John Andrews said that at the time that there was a connection that was missing between 2 water supplies. I believe it was the tanks on top of the hill across up by that service Merritt Boulevard and.
Hey, Steve, can I jump in?
Yes.
That project has moved forward and is currently being reviewed by all the regulatory agencies, so we expect that maybe by the end of this year there will be a connection. The health department is completely on board with it. It's going to allow other users within the Brinkerhoff area to connect. There's currently moratoriums because of their storage issues, but this will solve it. So if that helps, that may be an option you can look at.
But you kind of get it right away because it's on the other side, you know, where the subdivision is.
There was, I don't know what the standing of it is, but there was an easement that's filed. It's a 20-foot utility easement that extends down from the, let me see. I believe it extends down right over here along this property line right here and goes down to Hoos Boulevard. And that's where the sewer line was going to go through from the previous project. But I could have the surveyor check into that. It was a different surveyor at the time.
Are you sure it was sewer, not water?
100% positive.
Yeah, I think I remember that also.
There was one septic, and the septic was for the town of Wappinger's lot.
Right.
Which is which is on the other side of the north side of Smithtown Road. The project was actually both sides of Smithtown Road at the time. There were 2 lots on the north and 10 on the south.
So I know a reduced number of lots would make, you know, the financials different to hook up to the sewer, but it might help with some of these lot layout concerns that have been brought up, and without, you know, the need to connect to wells that are there already, it might free up the ability to be more flexible with some of the lots. Now, when I originally brought up the Aquifer Protection Overlay Zone, I did mention that the planning board under that can issue a special use permit subject to certain findings, but probably a lot of the findings would have to do with things like, you know, the functioning of existing wells and septic and, or the, you know, the ability to hook up to public water would certainly be a consideration. So, sounds like there's some stuff to look into.
Okay. We could certainly take a look at that.
Good. Well, any other questions from board members? This is one of those, I won't call it a simple two-lot subdivision, but I like using that term. This is a not so simple 3 or 4 lot subdivision. But we are definitely, you know, willing to work with you on figuring out the best way to develop this property.
Okay, we will look into those things and we'll get back with you guys.
All right. Yeah, so before we close on this one, I just wanted to suggest to board members who haven't had a chance to go out and look at the site, it really does help in this particular one in particular to go out and take a look at it. The site, look at the road conditions, the site distance, the character of the property, the trees in the back. Again, so besides everything else we mentioned, you know, adding somewhat of a tree survey on the plat would help to show where those existing trees are. But, you know, at least the significant ones, I don't know, over 8 inches DBH would probably be a good threshold to use.
Would the tree line at the bottom of the hill be suffice on the evergreen trees?
Well, I mean, it depends what else is in there. I didn't walk into the actual, you know, wooded area, whatever that is, but to somehow characterize what's in there, and I mean, there probably is some buffering function of even some of the smaller trees that are in there that would help to protect the, buffer the neighbors to that side of the subdivision. So it would help the board understand, I think, what size and types of trees are in there.
I'll see what I could do.
All right.
Any other questions, comments?
All right.
All right, have a good night.
Okay, thank you, you too. All right. The next project review is Duchess Storage, special use permit and site development plan, formerly known as Cube Smart Self-Storage. Board to review the application and supporting documentation, accepted and referred at the April 11th planning board meeting, and submission made by the applicant's representative on April 26, 2023. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. So please give us kind of a brief overview again of where the application is for now.
Basically, we've submitted this application. It's the same application we had submitted to the board a number of years ago and was approved. We have basically resubmitted that entire application. The only change that has been discussed is possibly the connection to town water. But really, that's the most material change that we're proposing.
And when we appeared at the April 13th meeting for the board, there was a request that we revisit the facade and the elevations, and we provided in your agenda packet tonight revised renderings. And what we're hoping for tonight is, of course, receiving comments from the board, but also asking that you circulate your notice of intent to be lead agency and schedule a public hearing for your next meeting. As you know, this is a project that has already been started, the slab poured, and we would like to, and the neighbors and the town would like to see that construction commence. So we're eager to move forward with that process and await your comments.
All right. Well, should we go to CPL's engineering memo? Maybe that'll get us kick-started.
Okay, regarding seeker, subject to confirmation from Dominic, we believe this should be classified as an unlisted action. We had several comments on the EAF. I'm not going to go through all those. They're all relatively minor in nature.
We concur with those.
Yeah. One of the things that we noted is that because of the amount of disturbance, full SWIP's going to be required. But did you want to respond to that?
Well, there's an existing speedies permit in place.
Oh, there is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, can you get us a copy of that?
Yes.
Okay.
You know the deal, Mark.
I can give you the number if you want it.
No, that's fine. I can probably get that information from, the town? No?
We have it. We'll give it to you.
All right, yeah. If you could just send us a copy of the SWIP that was approved along with the coverage, then that will take care of it. There was one item we needed clarification on. Parcel access shows the property is two.
There was at the time, the owner had solicited I believe the assessor's office to combine it. I'm not certain what happened to that paperwork, but obviously, from what I see on parcel access, it doesn't appear that it was ever done.
But that is what you guys would like to do?
That was the intent, and it always was the intent. As you can see on the site plan, the lot line is no longer there on the site plan.
Right.
I think it shows on the existing conditions plan because it's per survey.
Right.
But in the intent of that was to always combine those lots.
Okay. I guess let's
We'll
try and
follow
make
through.
it happen this time.
Yep, we'll follow through.
Then I talk about the other outside regulatory approvals that are needed. We also mentioned the testing for the existing slab. I believe that was done several years ago, and our office was involved in some capacity. Probably need to update that just to make sure everything's still good.
Can we do it as part of the building permit, though?
Is that how it was done previously?
I believe. I mean, it was.
I would like to just kind of follow what we had done previously.
Well, it wasn't existing at the old approval, but I would think that would be a building permit issue.
Right, because it's not part of the site plan approval. It's something that is existing. We're not saying it shouldn't be done. We're just saying if it's going to be a condition, then say as part of the building permit review, but really it's within the purview of the building.
Yeah, I agree with that. The worst case scenario is the testing comes out bad, you have to redo the whole thing. So that's fine.
I imagine, and we can check further with Dominic. I don't think an answer tonight, but, when we get to final approvals, we could think about conditioning the approval on the inspection working out well for the foundation prior to reissuance of any new building permits. I'm sure the previous permits have expired, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, on the plans, we just noted some items regarding lighting and some areas where the illumination exceeds the 0.1 foot candle level at the property line. Is that something you can?
Yeah, we can have, yep, we've already looked into that.
We'll need signage submission at some point.
Okay.
I think we've talked about the building materials, but the board needs to agree on what they would prefer to see out there. I think they've provided some nice options. We've asked for calculations for the box culvert. That would also be something I think, well, actually.
You think it's structural calculations or volume I'm not certain what calcs you're looking for.
We just want to make sure that, and you may have done this with your previous submission that we weren't part of, but just provide something that shows that it's sized adequately for.
We do, that information is in the SWIP.
It is, okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So once we add the SWIP, that comment should go away.
Okay.
You're going to provide fencing on top of the retaining wall to?
You're talking about behind the building?
Yeah.
We do show a fence there.
Okay.
On that
Just
section.
any place where it's like over 3 feet, I think you need something just so that someone won't fall off it.
I think we show it there.
Okay.
I mean, I know we show it on that cross-section. We actually show a fire truck and a
All
light
right,
truck.
it may not have been immediately obvious to
Okay.
me so just, perhaps make that a little bit more.
We'll make it brighter?
Sure, that would work. And then, this may be in your SWIP as well, but it sounds like you're proposing infiltration at the bottom of that.
Actually, that's a Nicolak system. So what we're actually proposing is the gravel directly below the Nicolak is sized to take that's the retention.
Okay.
We physically aren't proposing infiltration, although I can tell you from all the excavation that we've witnessed out there, you're in a very good sand and gravel glacial till.
Okay.
I mean, the perks, I want to say, for the septic, we're at 6.5.
Yeah.
So-
Again, I think that, some of these will go away when you give us a SWIP.
Yep.
But that's essentially all I had. Nothing earth-shattering.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Any questions or comments from board members? And also, let's make sure we talk a little bit about the architectural drawings that were submitted.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Good.
Oh, Mr. Schofield.
Go ahead.
I have one about DOT.
All right, so,
Sorry.
Gentlemen, I've heard that DOT is contemplating putting a circle in at the junction of 52 and 82.
We
That was-
did note that comment on the county planning. I actually have not seen those plans or are unaware of it. The one thing I'd like to ask the board is, and not to cut you off, but there was a question or a comment with the planning department, or Dutchess County Planning, about sidewalks. We had visited this when this project was in front of the board years ago. One of the issues that came up was our property line is very close to the edge of pavement along that intersection. Now, that may be a moot point because of whatever improvements the DOT is making. So that's something we'll have to visit after that.
Okay, but we have also approved putting sidewalks in with our latest comprehensive
Okay.
plan. So, we're going to request that anyway.
No, that's fine. I just wasn't aware of what the DOT was doing.
So the only thing I know is that they're
Okay.
the DOT is actually looking at it, and it makes sense because they're putting in circles all over the place.
Yeah,
So I just want to make sure that whatever you're doing is not going to interfere with whatever they plan on doing with that circle. And we don't want them to remove our statue.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, the one thing that this did have a DOT permit issued. It's at this point moot because it was under a different contractor, different insurances. So that would have to be re-upped, and at that point, we think that's when they would be bringing up, hopefully, whatever improvements they're proposing.
Yeah, I guess we're wondering whether maybe it would be appropriate at this point for you to reach out to DOT directly and ask specifically about, well, what are you guys going to do? No one really knows, so let's find
Well,
out.
the problem is, I think a lot of it is conjecture. I
Yeah.
don't think they know.
And it could be long-term. I don't even know what their timing is.
But how does that affect us?
I know, exactly, exactly.
It's just a request to
Oh, no, and we're
really
gonna
look
do it.
into
We'll
it.
make the inquiry, but obviously,
If they say do whatever they're going to do, that's fine, but it's,
But also, I'm glad Fred brought that up, because I also was going to raise the question of sidewalks on the frontage of the property here, and with our just adopted comprehensive plan update.
I think you want to look at that intersection. I think the board,
Yeah.
the board looked at it last time and thought it was a very bad idea to bring a sidewalk because you would have to be so close to the edge of pavement.
okay, but we're also contemplating doing the rail trail.
Well, that's
That would be in the
that's a
back.
different issue. That's a different issue. Yeah,
That's
that's
behind
in
us.
back of
That's
it, yeah.
behind you.
Yeah, so if we
It's
put-
not entirely a separate issue, because we're trying to look at an overall pedestrian circulation system and improvements, but.
But it would make better sense to put it on the rail trail than on the road. In my opinion, just being
Yeah.
at that intersection.
Right, and of course, future long-range plans also need to fit together, so whatever the DOT is thinking about, we need to know that, you need to know it, the town needs to know it.
Yeah, I was
Maybe-
totally unaware of it until we got that letter, so.
Yeah.
Fred, apparently the DOT has decided not to do the roundabout. Apparently it's not big enough.
Say that again?
The DOT is not planning to do the roundabout at the 52 and 82, apparently.
They're not planning on doing it?
No, they are not planning on doing it. I
Well-
just heard from.
So I think we need to find out what's really going on out there. Hearsay is not evidence that we can use as a planning board, so we need to find out actual facts. No, I don't mean hearsay on your part, or on our part, or on Robbie's part, or on Fred's
I
part.
think to myself, the comment that DOT is doing something is hearsay, because there's nothing in the record that you have before you to suggest that they are doing something. The entire conversation is conjecture.
So
You're
that's,
asking us to look into something that someone may have heard, as opposed to you having documented evidence that DOT is looking at it.
yeah, so that's exactly why I'm suggesting you reach out as early as possible to DOT and see what the blank is going on out there.
If they can get a response.
If you can get a response, exactly.
Yes.
We agree.
We have a renderings of it, if you're ready to discuss.
Yes, please. Go ahead, sorry about that.
No, no.
Off to the left.
Oh, okay. Indians off.
He's removed.
What I'm showing on the screen here, there was a request for a bird's eye view that sort of came from the intersection direction. And hopefully this helps showing the ins and outs that kind of happen in the building's footprint configuration. So with the 2D elevations, it was hard to differentiate how the brick corners on all the building stand out. So this helps with, emphasizing which material is a corner, because you can see a shadow and everything now. So I provided two options. In one, the one on the screen was more of the gray color scheme with a gray brick. And then there was a request for a red brick to keep in with historic character.
Right.
And it's really an option for you to decide on if you like the gray color scheme versus the red color scheme. But again, there's all the materials. There's the ephes top cornice. There is the metal span panels that are the main body of the building, and the metal panels also for the darker gray bump outs that you see. Along the base is a cultured stone, which will reflect a similar coloration to the Ninum Monument. There is also an ephes color that acts as kind of a base to the brick corners also. So it's basically the same elevations you're looking at, it's just the differentiation is the red brick or the gray brick.
Do you actually have the elevation drawings on there?
Yes.
Just to refresh our memory. Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember the roof line had some variations in them, the way it was, it's a little hard to see on there, but above each of the sort of entrance window arrangements, there's a, yeah, that's a little better. You can see, yeah, you can see the way the roof line varies with those added. I think that's good.
Yes, each of the bump outs that are in the darker gray color are emphasized with a kind of a cornice mimicking what you would find on old warehouses or factories.
So do board members have a preference at all in terms of the color schemes? And let me ask first, does the applicant have a preference?
I believe the applicant was good with the gray, but either one.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, did you have anything in that?
I like the red brick, honestly, if we're taking a straw poll here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the red one looks good from my point of view.
Bob, you have any preferences?
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I think you weren't trying to push the thing about the sidewalks, right, on this project?
Well, that's a different question. I think we got past that for tonight.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we're just talking about the building.
I think I like the previous picture. Yeah.
There's the gray one there, and there's the red one.
So you prefer the gray one?
Yeah, I think the other thing is kind of...
Fred, any?
At this point, I can't see red under one eye, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you for that.
That's all right.
Jody?
I like the gray.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of mixed. I like the red, but I'm afraid that it may, you know, it's hard to tell really precisely from these drawings what it's going to look like. Whatever we end up with, we'll ask for a building sample board anyway, so we can see the actual sample of the material. Maybe before we go further, it would be helpful to submit.
That's fine, I'll work on having that for the next.
Yeah, that might be helpful. So it sounds like, it's kind of.
But the rest of the building is all the same, so it's just those two colors.
Yeah, at least that might help the board figure out.
Very good.
Sounds like it's sort of a mixed verdict at this point. I'm pretty sure either one would be acceptable, but.
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't want to get too.
Ultimately, yes, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to get too picky about colors, but if the red color is kind of a toned down, real brick type of color as opposed to more of a red, brighter contrast, then I think that might work. But the gray is more industrial, as you said, maybe not quite as consistent with the materials at the statue site, but this is a different type of facility. And again, I think one of our previous applications that you heard us talking, or you might have been out in the lobby while we were talking about, suggested that we should talk with the town board about future self-storage facilities in the town, because they're...
We were here first.
You were here, well, no, I know. I know. And just for future submissions, we're talking about whether or not the town board might want to take a look at what's been going on in the town and think about it for the future, not for this one. Anyway, that's another story. Okay. So what else? All right. One thing we've got to do tonight is talk about the seeker. First of all, the classification. Now, this might sound a little bit different from what you might have been expecting, but so CPL's memo suggests that this can be classified as an unlisted action under seeker, and in fact, the CubeSmart proposal is classified as such. But I actually checked out the seeker regs, and as far as I can tell, and I'll ask Dominic to check on this as well, I think that the previous proposal might have been misclassified as an unlisted action back in 2017, and possibly should have been classified as a type 1 action. So when you look at the type 1 actions list, so this is 6 NYCRR Part 617.4, type 1 actions, Section B6V states that the B part is the following actions are type 1 if they are to be directly undertaken, funded, or approved by an agency, including, here's the 6th part of it, activities other than the construction of residential facilities that meet or exceed any of the following thresholds, including, and here's the V part of it, in a city, town, or village having a population of 150,000 persons or less, a facility with more than 100,000 square feet of gross floor area. So the Duchess storage proposal includes one building at 97,275 square feet and one at 18,150 square feet, totaling 115,425. So that would exceed the threshold of 100,000 for a type 1 action, and in the town of Fishkill, which has a population of 24,500 plus or minus in the July 22 estimates by the U.S. Census Bureau, I think it probably should be classified as type 1.
I agree.
Thanks, Dominic. So, unless the applicant would like to propose deleting the Phase 2 building, you could get back under 100,000, but I don't really think that should have anything to do with the way this would proceed under seeker. No, and I think we probably need a motion to classify the Duchess storage proposal as a type 1 action pursuant to seeker. So we should do that tonight. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Anthony moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
Jody seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then the follow-up question would be, should the board indicate our intent to serve as lead agency and to conduct a coordinated review and circulate a notice of intent to serve as lead agency to involved and interested agencies. So I assume we should probably go ahead and do that tonight, Dominic?
Yes, sir.
Would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
Yes, second.
Bob moves it. Is there a second?
Second it.
Robbie seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes 6-0. So we'll need to work, Debbie, with getting...
Do I have to have the updated EAF to do that?
Well, that's, we should, because there were quite a few things. So we,
It won't happen until I get...
yeah, we can't do it until we receive the updated EAF.
I'll have to let you know what I need as far as copies of everything, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, the next steps then would be getting the updated EAF and the circulate the notice of intent once we get that. and then to address a number of those other things that were raised in CPL's memo. So other than that, unless you have any other questions?
I do.
Okay, please.
As I indicated in the beginning, we are eager, and I think the community is as well, for us to move the project along. And given the minor nature of the comments, and that this is in essence for request for reapproval of previously approved site plan and special use permit, we'd also request that you schedule a public hearing for your June meeting.
So what do you think about that, John? And then I'll ask Dominic, and then the board members.
From my perspective, knowing that there's a SWIP that addresses a lot of the comments we had, I really don't have any issue with that request, but I'll let Dominic weigh in as well.
I think the board's very familiar with the site, and you know, the plans have the benefit of being, you know, updates to what was previously approved and will hopefully be constructed this time around. And given that, I don't think that there are substantial issues that are outstanding that would prevent the public from being able to comment in a informed way about the plans where they stand now.
Can we tell the public it's a different owner?
Certainly.
Because a lot of people don't like the previous owner.
And we've made that, when we've appeared, we've made it in our cover letter, certainly as part of a public hearing presentation, we will emphasize that point.
And my understanding is that the new owner actually owns the property. It's not under contract, that they actually have purchased it and they are committed to the site.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, so that's on the public record now. Thank you.
So we wouldn't be, so we declared ourselves lead agency, and we're going to circulate once the EAF is provided.
Right, so, and the agencies have 30 days once the notice is circulated in which to respond. Now,
if we hold the hearing, the
Stays open.
Right, it would stay open, or you, right.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
That's what I was going to suggest too, that I know on occasions like this previously, we've opened a public hearing, we've scheduled a public hearing, held the public hearing, and where involved agencies still have time to respond to the notice, we can hold the public hearing open.
Sure.
But at least it would get things started and would see where the public is in terms of their observations.
I have to say, I have not seen a lead agency dispute in this region since 2009. So
I'm not saying we shouldn't hold a hearing, I'm just questioning the,
That's a good question.
I'm just questioning the
You also have the option under section 13.7 of your planning board rules to waive the public hearing on the site plan, because we're amending a previously approved site plan, but you do still require a public hearing on the special use permit in any event.
Right. And also, if there are going to be some modifications, for instance, regarding the connection with the public water, that can always be, you know, left for details based on conditional approval to follow up with any plan changes that might result in before. So I think in this kind of a case, I'm not sure, I can't predict the future, but what it seems like we might do ultimately is issue a preliminary site development plan approval with the special permit, and then condition that preliminary approval on subsequent details that would have to be worked out for a final approval. That's sometimes what we've done, and you know, it might work out for the applicant's ability to pursue any other approvals, such as from DOT and the Health Department, in order to get things underway on that end. So anyway, that's something we'll have to decide later. But starting the public hearing at the June meeting, I think, would probably work. So would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion, I won't be here.
Would your motion have been the same if you were going to be here? Is there a second?
Second.
Jody seconds it. Any further discussion on scheduling the public hearing for the June 8th meeting?
Yes.
Let's see, have we scheduled a different public hearing tonight for that date?
No.
Okay, so this will be 7 PM or as soon thereafter as possible, okay? All right,
First one so far.
first one so far,
There's only one more.
yeah.
And then, Mr.
So we just need to get a vote on that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes 6-0. So public hearing, June 8th.
And
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my final comment was just to confirm that we have the board's consent to speak with your board attorney and your board engineer just on some of these final review comments about the SWIP and the DOT and the sidewalks and conversations, just so we could make sure we are appearing in June and for the public hearing with as much information as possible.
Does that make sense, John?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll move that.
So Fred will move that? And is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Question about signage for
Yeah,
the public
signage.
hearing.
Signage for the public hearing. Good point.
2 signs.
Two signs on either side of the road.
Well,
You're on a curve.
yeah, you are.
You're on that curve.
There's a good bit of frontage, so there certainly would be, probably plenty of room for one sign somewhere on the, what would be the western end of the site, and one sign on the eastern end of the site.
Like in the picture of one.
The
Two,
signs
one
are
on
the
that
same.
side and one on this side. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I want the left side of the left building, right side of the right building.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
If you put it near where the cars stop for the light, that'd
Actually,
be good.
it's probably not a bad idea, right where the bar is.
Yeah, that's true. And
So
then
if
one
we
up
put
at-
one by the stop bar and then one a little further to the west.
Yeah.
The only thing, I don't want to get too close to the entrance because it's kind of convoluted there. So maybe we'll just pull it just east of that entrance.
Sounds good.
All right?
So two
I
signs?
think it will
Two
be,
signs?
yeah, I think it will be seen.
Yeah, 2 signs I think is fine. Okay,
Very good. Thank you for your time tonight.
thank you very much.
You get 5 seconds.
5 seconds?
5
4.
minutes.
Time's up.
I think John's
Yes.
counting down.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah, she should have left an hour.
Hope you're okay, Jody. All right, yes, so we will be taking a 5-minute break, but really no more than 5 minutes.
Yeah. I should be back in. Okay.
Okay, we are ready to start back up. Thanks for the pause. So this is Westage Self-Storage, Site Development Plan, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit. That's the way it was advertised on the agenda, anyway. Board to review submission made by the applicant's representative on April 26, 2023. So welcome.
Thank you. Good
Thanks
evening.
for waiting this late.
Absolutely. So we were last here last month at the meeting. With me tonight, well, I'm Kyle Ahern with Labella Associates, and with me tonight, a couple familiar faces and a new face. So Bobby Patel with Fishkill Storage, Neil Alexander with Cutting Fetter, and Leanne Lagakis with FG Ralph, project architect.
Welcome.
So, thank you. So, the plan itself, last time we were here, we focused a lot of attention on the floodplain analysis that had been done the previous month. So tonight, and at that meeting, we came to a consensus essentially on the floodplain itself and the site plan. So we're tasked with taking that concept plan and the grading plan that was submitted and turning it into the full plan set that was submitted this past month. Also provided the project SWIP, updated elevations, and unfortunately, last time we were here, we did talk about, it was going to be a tight deadline to that next submission. We were hoping to get the signage package in with this submission. That was not able to be completed in time, but the signage is shown on the elevations, so we're ready to talk about signage. We know we have the signage package now. I'd like to hand it out to discuss with the renderings and the elevation, and that package will obviously be submitted with our next iteration, with the next package. So beyond just adding detail to the plans that you saw last time, the plan itself has not changed. So it's just adding additional information, landscaping, lighting, erosion control, that type of thing, details, all that good stuff. So I won't go through every plan. I just wanted to highlight a couple things that were mentioned in the county and CPL letter. The county, despite the signage package not being submitted, they were able to comment on the signage based on what was shown on the elevations. So they deemed their package, the submission package, complete, and they have recommended that the planning board rely on your own study of the facts and take their comments into consideration. One of the things that came up in their letter is the wetland and watercourse impacts. They were happy with the elimination of the impacts within the 30-foot buffer. They wanted us to consider pavers on this site. As you guys know, we talked about last time quite a bit that we are filling within the area of disturbance around the building. To use a infiltration practice like a pervious paver or porous pavement, you can't do that within fill material. And if we were to not do it in fill and just do it at ground level, at this site the groundwater is too high to accommodate an infiltration practice like that. They also recommended reducing the drive lanes. They say here that 12-foot lanes are more appropriate for highways, and I disagree with that. Actually, if you look at the County Department of Public Works standards, for a minor or major commercial driveway, the minimum you can go is 24 feet, and that goes up to 30 feet for a higher use driveway. So we agree it is a minor driveway for a minor commercial use, so we're going with that minimum 24-foot width. Usually, if you're talking about a 12-foot lane on a highway, you then would also have shoulders. We don't have shoulders here, so effectively the actual drive width is already less than that 12-foot. They supported the further reduction. If you'll recall, we originally had, I think it was 14 parking spaces. That's been reduced to 9, which was in line with the ITE, Institute of Traffic Engineers, demand predicted for self-storage, also consistent with other projects that have been reviewed by the town. The lighting, so we did reduce the lighting as we talked about last time. Well, last time I said we were going to be reducing the lighting anyway. So the lighting was limited to just 2 on each side without a door. The county is basically questioning that, and in our opinion, even though there's no doors on those sides, we think that perimeter lighting will deter anyone from even considering coming near the building, specifically because this building is pretty isolated from the rest of Westage. So we just want to make sure that security is considered there. The signage. So as I said, the signage package they did not review, but they did comment on signage, what they would like to see, and also the signage that was submitted on the architecturals. One thing they did say in here is they're recommending just one sign on the, and actually on the architecturals there was no signage shown on the, wait, did we add that? No, we did add that, never mind. On the 84 side, right? That's on the elevation? Yes, okay. On the elevation what?
It's on the elevation,
Banana, okay.
Do you want to repeat that?
So the, and Leanne's going to go over architecture next. But what the county was basing their letter on was those elevations. So the 84 side does have signage shown on the new elevations. The rendering does not, because the rendering is the same rendering that was submitted previously. We weren't able to update that in time for this submission. So we did add a note on the rendering just saying, you know, if any discrepancy, the elevation prevails, essentially. Sorry, let me come here. All right, so the county comment was essentially they are recommending only signage on the east facade. So along this side, because that's what will be visible as you enter the site. And I mean, if you're entering the site from this northeast corner, you'll be able to see that east facade, but I would argue it's not directly in front of you. So what's really directly in front of you is this corner of the building, the northeast corner. So as I was kind of describing in the last meeting, we're proposing two signs that are at the corner of the building that essentially act as one sign. So there's the tenant name on one side on the east facade, and then on the north facade it says self-storage. So it's the tenant self-storage. We're not duplicating the same name on both sides, which the county mentioned it being duplicative, excuse me, because on the elevations you'll see it just as signage and signage. But like I said, we'll get to that more later with architecture. So we'll respond to these in writing, but essentially, the county is saying that the planning board should use its own discretion in deciding it. Okay. And then as far as the CPL letter, just a couple of things that were highlighted as items that the board should consider. The first is the parking reduction. So I know we've talked about that at previous meetings, but because that is a planning board waiver, just making sure that everyone's still on board with the 9 parking spaces proposed. And then lighting and landscaping, which I know we talked a little bit about landscaping and lighting last time. The photometrics were submitted because of the fact that the building is set back from West Edge Business Drive. The photometrics are pretty minimal at the property lines. They're really just around the parking area itself, which is, as you know, only 9 spaces, so it's not a whole lot of lighting. And then landscaping, one of the comments at the last meeting was to add additional evergreen screening. So we replaced some of the deciduous plantings, and then we added some additional evergreens along the northern side here. We tried to keep it a little bit more open at the entrance, so we're not completely blocked out from view, but along more of the north central portion of that property line, added some more screening there.
What's there now?
Sorry?
What trees are there now?
The trees aren't real, so the trees that are on site now are, and that's one other thing I wanted to mention, the signage and the tree survey was not able to be completed in time, so that will be submitted with the next iteration as well, but the trees that are being removed are shown on C-150. They're just not identified individually, but there's really no trees north of the wetland and south of the Optum parking lot. So the trees that are being removed are south of the wetland and down to the water course.
Do you plan on landscaping it in the front?
Say it again?
Are you planning on, besides planting, landscaping?
Yes, so in addition to the screening, I went the wrong way here. Let me see if I can zoom in for. Zoom button. It's not letting me. So in addition to the screening up front, there's also some screening along the eastern property line to screen it from the hotel. There's landscaping basically on all sides of the parking lot. And then, like I said, the existing trees are along the western and southern edge. So those are remaining. So that was, and same as the county letter, we'll provide full written responses to the engineering letter. But those were kind of the items we wanted to highlight on, give the board an opportunity to respond or, opine on those. So that's kind of it for me. If you guys would like to ask questions now, or we can let Leanne do architecture and then we can do questions at the end.
Yeah, why don't we take a look at the architecture first, and then we'll go to questions.
Thanks. Thank you.
Can I open the elevations also?
Can't have two at once.
No, I mean, they're not open yet.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely can, sure. They're not on the top? That's everything I got, so.
Okay.
That's what was given to me on a USB.
Oh, yeah, they're in the last
All right, so just to go over the elevations,
If you could just move the microphone down just a little bit, sorry.
forget how short I am.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Just because I wasn't here previously to discuss the elevations and the facade design. As Kyle said, these elevations are more updated than the renderings, only because we couldn't get the renderings updated in time. Takes a little bit more time to do that. So just to go over the overall design. So as you can see from your the package that was handed out, this is going to be CubeSmart, and staying with the brand colors and the materials that they use, it's mostly grays and typically a lot of red. For this site specifically, we thought going with a ton of red would be a little bit too much. So we tried to keep the red down to a minimum and just have a couple of bands in there and the red signage. Everything else is gray. And then on the elevations, I included the finish schedule, which I brought physical samples if you guys want to take a look up close. Just to see what they actually look like. So from renderings, we do have some extra signage that was taken out, so.
Do you want me to pass these around?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
They're just Velcroed, so don't worry. So most of the signage, we don't have the loading in the office, so you can basically ignore that. As per that signage package that was handed out, right up here, we're going to have a CubeSmart sign, and that sign itself is 56.94 square feet. On this side over here, it's going to say self-storage, and that's 31.93 square feet. And then just going back to the elevation, we added some sign and some faux doors, just so you can see them from I-84. And this will also say self-storage, the same size at 31.93 square feet. This is just to have some visibility from the road, so people know it's a self-storage facility. And just getting back to the materials and the colors, like I said, we wanted to tone this down a little bit. We didn't want to have all the red here, just to keep in mind the site and the context. So we stayed with the grays and tried to bring the block, have a block base to kind of bring it back to the surroundings. And the corner feature with the glass, brings visibility, allows people to know that it's storage. That's why we had it on the other side. And like I said, we just toned down the red, it's just bands. Typically, we would have this whole, glass feature outlined in red. We decided to not do it just because we have the red signage on both sides. And that's pretty much it for the design of the facade. It's all block and metal panels, which is standard for storage buildings in the area. And that's about it. Any other questions? I figured, yeah.
I meant to mention I was going to talk more about signage. I didn't mean to force the signage talk onto you.
Could I ask a question about
Sure.
one of the other things the county later suggested was the freestanding sign at the entrance, perhaps moving that a little bit closer?
So that was not intended to be where shown on the rendering here. So it's not here. That's actually a no parking sign that the fire chief had requested. So the location, which one is the site plan? There we go. Getting cross-eyed here, looking at these tabs. All right, so what will be in the next package, the site monument sign is located at the entrance here.
It's on the first page of their,
Oh, yes, it was updated on the site,
Well, you
the
have that
signage
as E.
package.
Is that number E on this plan?
It's E, yes. Yeah, and it's labeled on the site plan, the location, so it's the 15 feet off the property line, right at the western side of the entrance.
And the last page in the packet shows the flow of it.
And each of these signs going to be illuminated?
Yes. And the site monument sign will be one-sided.
So you're asking for 4 signs?
So, yeah, we're asking for 3 building signs and the site sign. So, as of right is 2 building signs and the site sign as well. So we're asking for 1 additional building sign. And just to kind of go back to that point, the I-84 signage, this property, as you know, is at the back of Westage. So there are no adjoiners that are going to be looking at that sign. You're really only going to be seeing it from I-84. The eastern facade, similar situation. The only place you can really see that eastern side is from the site entrance, or I don't have an aerial here, but right where my mouse is here is the Spring Hill Suites, which will block this building from the majority of the rest of Westage, with the exception of 1 access drive on the southern side of the hotel. It will be visible from that location. And then the northern side of the building will be the most visible from within Westage. So coming around the northern side of the hotel, or if you're at Optum, or if you're across the pond at Regency, you'll be able to see the building there. And the signage that we're requesting, because of that, you're not going to be seeing 2 signs from any location. You'll only be seeing 1 sign. And the most visible sign is only 31 square feet, I believe it says. The areas are all in the top right corner. 31.93, yeah.
All right.
So B2 is facing 84, so I'm going to say self-storage, and B1 facing people coming in is going to have to name without self-storage. And then you're going to have self-storage in the entrance?
Yes, you had that right, B1. Yeah, so the idea is the Cube Smart, which is A, will be visible at an angle as you enter the site, and then it will be the main sign that you'll see as you're loading, unloading, getting into the office, using this site and close to the building. And then the self-storage signs are really just for, advertisement essentially, just to be able to identify the use.
Do we allow illuminated signs on the ground?
And the other, beyond the sight lines that I talked about, a lot of the size, the area of these signs is driven by the setbacks. So, this northern setback it's not going to let me zoom in again, but I believe that says 213 feet to the property line. So we're set back quite a bit from what's already the remote part of Westage. So, we're having to scale it up just so it's more visible.
So the appearance and location are obviously part of our purview, but the size and number are part of the ZBA. So, I mean,
Really, the building inspector and then the ZBA is variance.
so I mean, locations of the signs, color, I mean, that's something for us to consider, but I'm not, size and number is not anything we, ZBA's call.
I mean, we had a big problem
I mean,
with
plain and
community
simple.
college.
So,
I guess one question on that sign B2 that's facing I-84, how visible do you think that's actually going to be from people traveling on I-84? I mean, my impression is it wouldn't be too visible. I mean, the lettering is relatively small and inconspicuous, so to speak, from the distance that people will be looking at it from.
Yep. We did ask the signage company for a very specific opinion on that. We haven't gotten that yet, but we do believe, 2 foot letters will at least, be visible. And if they come back and say maybe it should be bigger, I mean, we can think about that. But
I guess I would look at it from the other point of view. Maybe it's not even necessary on the back part of the building because most people traveling on I-84 are going so fast that they're not really even going to really look at or notice a sign like that.
I think the 84 side is like the most important side for them.
I mean, I think I'm sorry, I'll come up.
Yeah.
I think your point is, sorry, good evening, everybody, Neil Alexander from Cutting.
Welcome again.
Thank you very much. I think your point, we hear your point. I think it's going to sit lower than Spring Hill Suites probably, right? And it's got a slightly different orientation. I think that's the comparison, is that all the others have some kind of presence. I think it's going to be less visible, I agree with you, than the ones that you do see right now. I think there's a seasonality to it as well, so it may have be a little bit more obscured as we get deeper into summer. In the winter, I think it'll be helpful, and I mean, I think it's sort of trying to take advantage, candidly, of where it's located to give people awareness that there is one. I understand in this, in the age that we're living in, people who are looking for a hotel, Google hotel near me, literally, right?
Yeah.
Or other search engine. I guess I shouldn't create a monopoly there. But they use the search engine, right? And the people who are looking for self-storage may do that, but it also creates a little bit of awareness of like, oh, I didn't know there was a self-storage there I could go to, right? And I think we're trying to balance it, right? So I understand. I think Joel ruled 65.25 or something like that is our allowance based on the length of our building. And so we're trying to sort of balance it all, because Leanne can speak better than I can, but if you look at the way the building sits, we're trying to satisfy the brand, that they have a nice sign when you're at the point of customer, right? But we're also trying to create an announcement that this is the use at this location, and the front where people can see it, and in the back is really where the people are most likely to get an announcement, right? Is, hey, there's a self-storage facility there, like not just hotels, the 3 hotels.
Yeah, as they're traveling on their vacation. Hey, look, honey, there's a self-storage unit, another one in the town of Fishkill.
It must be Fishkill.
Just put Town of Fishkill up there.
I recognize that there seems to be a, look, I mean, I don't want to wade in on that issue, which is a whole nother issue, but
Yeah.
I think, look, what I will say is I think we all have to recognize, in the past 14 months, you've seen a 500 basis point move in lending. And so certain things that weren't financeable have stopped being financeable, and other product types that are financeable are still moving. I think it's less, I would argue to you all, it's less that you're getting a proliferation and more that other types of things are not financeable anymore. You know, building a very large housing project at market rate with when your debt service just went up 500 basis points becomes a little bit scarier, right? And we're not sure if the Fed's done yet. So I would weigh in, you know, a little bit on your notion there that this may be, and then I'll copy the prior attorney and say, I think we're second. They were first. But thank you for indulging me there.
Thank you.
Just to speak about the signs on that side, my firm does a lot of storage facilities, and I honestly had the same view as you, who's going to see it when they're driving past the road. But we do have a surprising amount of clients that say that just by having the sign on the main road, even people just commuting, see how far it is from them, and they call up and they say, oh, I didn't realize how close you were, and then they choose that facility. So most of the ones that we do that are on a main interstate or something that can get that visibility, you're not going to get all your business that way, of course, but it does bring in just an awareness of, as Neil said, oh, now there's a storage facility there, and, brings it back to so that they know how close it is to them and that kind of thing.
All right. Well, why don't we give John Bodendorf an opportunity to go through CPL's memo in a little bit more than we've talked about so far, and then see if the board has any more questions.
Okay, thank you. They touched on a number of the items that are in our most recent memo. Under the general section, a lot of these are repeat comments. I would point your attention to, well, comment 5 is about the parking. At some point, the board should make a decision as to whether or not they agree with the proposed number of spaces. We've opined that it appears to be adequate, but ultimately, the board has to agree to the reduction. Comment 6, there's a letter from the health department on file that essentially called out the town for allowing connections in other parts of this Westage development, I wouldn't say illegally, but without going through the proper process, and they alluded that the town may wish to extend it or form a new district here. So at minimum, I'm going to be setting up a meeting on behalf of the town, and I will invite certain town employees to attend the meeting with the health department to figure out what exactly needs to be done to correct whatever was done improperly in the past, and hopefully that will cover whatever needs to be done here as well. So more on that later. We've asked for additional details on the bridge that's proposed. Asked for them to confirm with the fire department that they can, now that the building is 70 feet in height, just make sure that their aerial apparatus can handle it. I'm guessing that would be the case since there are other buildings.
So just, I meant to clarify that earlier too. So I think the 70 feet in height is coming from the bulk table where we're intending to say under 70 feet. So the actual, from the elevations, the actual height, the exact height is 47.5 feet to the parapet, and then 54 to the stair bulkhead, which, I mean, it still then requires aerial access, but that was
Well, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and it
Okay,
so
so
was, yeah,
that was
reviewed.
just a misread on our part. I'll make sure that comment gets stricken. Oh, we talked about the water service under the bridge. Just provide more information on, you know, so we can be assured that that's not going to be problematic. I'm sure the village of Fishkill will probably weigh in on the proposed connections as well. And let's see, some additional information on the pump system for the wastewater. And what, I thought, are you guys going to have a refuse enclosure? Or?
So there was originally a refuse enclosure. There's no longer one proposed.
Okay. Yeah,
They'll have there's really not much waste generation.
No, I agree. We are doing a similar project in another municipality, and we were asked not to provide a refuse enclosure because of that. So, and then we reviewed the SWIP. Only had a few comments. It was, you know, pretty thorough, and I don't see any reason why they can't address the 5 or so comments that we had on it. So, in general, pretty good shape, the site plan.
Thanks, John. All right, well, do board members have any comments or questions that we haven't already talked about?
I'll say that I support the parking reduction, if that's something that we need to discuss as a board. I know John mentioned it a moment ago.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that briefly? I was going to bring that up too. We've discussed it in the past, and it's down to 9 parking spaces proposed. That is supported by county planning. It's based on ITE standards for parking for facilities like this, and it's been recommended by our engineer as adequate. And I think that the planned shopping center zoning district, which this is located in, gives the planning board quite a bit of discretion and authority to waiver and reduce parking, and this seems like it's probably at about the right number. So for the record, I think we would have no problem with that kind of a parking waiver. How about, let's see, I took a pretty close look at the updated landscaping plan, and I think it looks pretty good. As you said, the board had requested some additional evergreens so that there would be more year-round screening and interest, and that's been added. Also, I think the plan looks very well designed and with appropriate species and screening.
Thank you.
I think the floor plan and building elevations with building materials, you know, in a different location where it might be in a more conspicuous location, I think we might have some other suggestions, but I think at this current site, it looks, you know, good, and it's not going to be very intrusive from outside of the site area, so I don't have any objections to the building designs. I don't know if anyone else
agree.
does. So, what else? I think that was pretty much all that I was going to go over. Any other questions? I think we have at least one step we could take tonight.
Well, I think John touched on it. I heard somebody with concern about water and sewer connections to this project. So, yeah, that's what was, but you kind of pointed that out.
Yeah, so the well, as we talked about last time, the DOH is no longer an interested agency, but there is the lingering comments the DOH had. So kind of in two compartments that have some overlap. So the applicant, the sewer and water connections are required to be approved by the village. So we'll be submitting that application. The town also had, or the DOH, I should say, also had some concerns with essentially the private system that's in place there, which was surprising to hear because the DOH has approved multiple connections over the years. So they recommended that the town set up districts. So John, as John said, he's going to be setting up a meeting with them for that. It's our opinion that this project is, it should be essentially treated like every other project has been in Westage. And if the DOH has any issues with Westage Maintenance Association or the lack of sewer districts, that can be handled as a separate item that doesn't need to be, tied to this review.
The sign on the back of the building makes sense to me. Otherwise, it just be a big, as a business, thinking as a business thing, yeah, it makes sense. And it's lit up and the color, it's going to be seen.
So my next question for the board and our consultants is, would it be appropriate to schedule a public hearing for the June 8th meeting? Now that we have pretty much most, if not all, of the details we would need on the revised site plans. And so you'll be submitting these, the new elevation drawings formally to the planning office so that we have those.
Right, so that'll be part of the public hearing package.
Yeah.
And the landscaping plan, right?
The landscaping plan was already done.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the, what
I thought there was something,
I believe the tree survey will be.
The tree survey, right,
yes.
yeah. So
It's late.
If we can get, if we can get that
Yep.
well before the submission date for June 8th. Let's see, by the way, the submission date for June 8th is what? Let's see.
24th.
Thank you. So, John and Dominic, what's your thought on scheduling a public hearing for June 8th?
Well, I would agree with the board's comments that the items that seem outstanding at this point wouldn't preclude the public from being able to comment in substance regarding the application. And I would also add that this matter was first heard before the board at your November 2022 meeting. And since that time, from my perspective, it's been apparent that the board has taken a very hard look at this application, has made constructive suggestions to the applicant. I think they've appeared no fewer than 5 times. This may be their 5th time of appearing before the board to try to address any concerns that the board may have and minimize the overall effect of the project. And so, as a result, I think that they're probably, based on the feedback that you've been given tonight, ready for public input at this point.
I agree. Dominic said exactly what I was going to say.
To the word? That's what I thought.
A little more eloquently.
No.
If board members have no objection, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll do it because you know I'm not going to be here.
Again, thanks, Fred. So that's a motion to schedule a public hearing for the June 8th planning board meeting. This will be the second public hearing, so we already have one scheduled at 7, but what we usually say is at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. Would someone like to move that? Oh,
I did.
you did move
Yeah.
it, sorry. Would someone like to second it?
Second.
Bob seconds it. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Now the
Any,
hard part.
Any opposed? Oh, yeah, this will be,
5-0.
yeah, any opposed, any abstentions, so that's 5-0 because we are down to 5 voting members. And
Where are you going to put the signs?
public hearing signs. So this is a little bit trickier. Obviously, I think one would have to go at the future entrance to the site. I think there might be the opportunity, and since this is the overall West Edge Business Park, I don't think there's an issue with putting them away from the site. So one thing you could do is maybe put one actually at the intersection of Wested Drive with Route 9, just to show people that there's something else going on inside the business park. And then another one might be, you know where the T intersection is, at where the large, it's not really a pond, it's a lake, I guess.
300.
Yeah, exactly. That might be another good place to put one.
So 3? You're done.
So I'm talking about 3. Anyone have any other thoughts?
No, where is the third one, did you say?
So one at the site entrance in the parking.
Yeah.
Yeah. One actually at the Route 9
And Route
West
9,
Edge Business
yeah.
Drive intersection, and then one internally at that T intersection as you're going in toward 300 West Edge Business Drive. Any others? I don't think it's necessary to put one like all the way at the other side of the business park, but
No.
I think those 3 should pretty much flag it to people.
That'll do it.
All right, unless anyone objects or thinks of something else?
No
on that.
objection.
Okay. Good. The other thing I think I saw in the application materials was a request that the planning board refer the variances to the zoning board of appeals, but I don't think that's necessary because under town law, for site plans, the applicant can make an application directly to the ZBA. So I think you'll just have to probably, again, confer with Joel and make sure that what you're requesting is what, and has all the material you'll need to provide to the ZBA.
I think that's I think you hit on exactly. I think we wanted to make sure we were at a juncture, which I think we hit tonight, right? That it was appropriate for us to go. We didn't want to go too soon. And I think that's really where we struggled with how to write that.
Yeah.
Right, correctly. You struck at exactly what we were trying to get at. So we'll probably submit by the end of May to be on the June agenda, which would be after your meeting. I think they're June 20th. So that's great. I think that's really, we just wanted to be transparent about that issue.
Sounds good.
Yep. Look out, ZBA.
Yeah.
Here we come.
Yeah. Debbie does it all. Okay. Any other questions for tonight?
One for me.
All right. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Want to steal your sample?
Okay.
Don't you want to see it?
No, I'm good. I saw it.
Okay.
Vote doesn't count.
I had just a couple of quick items under other business, which I think we'll be able to get in under the wire. Just give me one
Thanks,
second
everyone.
here.
Can't leave.
No?
Thank you.
2 more items.
All right, so first, and Fred, you can weigh in on this, but just wanted to report that the comprehensive plan update was actually adopted at the May 3rd town board meeting.
Congratulations. Well done, guys.
Congratulations to everybody. Yeah, thanks to the town board for their support during the whole process. Thanks to other committee members for time and efforts in updating the plan. And thanks to members of the public for providing essential input into the plan. So the plan is available to view and download if you haven't already seen it on the town's website. It looks really good. It's got nice illustrations, good separation of information into appropriate appendices where needed, and it really covers quite a bit of material, so I think we're pretty happy with it. So everybody take a look at it, and we should start using it. I think the planning board members, at some point, when there are going to be some printed copies of it available, I think all planning board members should get one if you want. And, but meanwhile, I mean, it's
Jonathan,
yeah.
I also think, because a lot of the things that we have on that refer back to the previous one.
Yeah, well, you know what? The previous one is actually embedded into the new plan as an appendix.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, good.
So, I mean, you know, whether everybody's going to want hard copies of all 3 volumes, which includes all the appendices, I don't know.
If you all drop me an email, let me know which one copies of, and I'll take it from there.
Okay.
All right.
And I think it'll be probably a while before copies are available, but. All right.
I'd like a signed copy.
Signed?
Signed?
Signed by who?
We'll let you sign your own personal copy.
Sign your own.
I meant from the committee.
Signed by who?
So, all right. So this will take a little bit longer, but not long. So this is kind of an update on the Healy Hyundai retaining wall that I reported out at the last meeting. Well, it turns out that the town board discussed that same thing in a public agenda, in a public meeting at their April 19th meeting. So during that discussion, the town board agreed that the retaining wall that had been constructed on the Healy site significantly deviated from the site plan that was approved by the planning board, and that they believe that the town building inspector's determination that said improvements were mere field changes, and these are words that the town board was using itself, was made in error. The town board and their attorney also indicated that failure to construct improvements in accordance with the approved site plan is generally a violation of the site plan approval, which requires either modifying the improvements to conform to the approved site plan or a further application of the planning board for modified or amended site plan approval to allow the non-conforming elements to remain on the property. And that's actually what's happened on a number of occasions in the past that I can remember. So citing Town of Fishkill Code provisions in section 150-179A, and let's see, what did I do with that? Somewhere, I have copies of that. I'll get them out later. I have copies of that section for the planning board to take home and take a look at. But that section of the town code provides that the Town of Fishkill Zoning Board of Appeals has jurisdiction to hear and decide appeals from and review any order, requirement, decision, and determination made by the building inspector or zoning administrator, which appeals may be taken by any person aggrieved or by any officer, department, or board of the Town of Fishkill. So based on that, the town board unanimously voted to approve a resolution to authorize the town attorney to appeal determination by the building inspector in this matter. And I understand the appeal will be likely scheduled for the June 20th ZBA meeting. So I wanted to mention 2 follow-up things to that. At the June 8th planning board meeting, I'd like to submit a draft letter for the planning board's consideration for authorizing my sending a letter to the ZBA on behalf of the planning board, basically indicating that the planning board also believes that the building inspector was in error by determining that the non-conforming wall did not constitute mere field changes, and requesting that the ZBA overturn the building inspector's determination, and further requesting that the ZBA require the project sponsor to either modify the retaining wall to conform to the approved site plan, or to submit an application to the planning board for consideration of a modified or amended site plan approval to allow the non-conforming improvements, either in a modified form or as is, to remain on the property. And secondly, for future reference and other applications, the planning board should be aware that pursuant to section 150-179A, and I'll again fish that out in a minute, of the Town of Fishkill Code, the planning board, being a board of the Town of Fishkill, appears to have the authority to file an appeal with the ZBA regarding any order, requirement, decision, and determination made by the building inspector or zoning administrator, just as the town board has done in the Healy case. This appears to be very clear and straightforward as written in section 179A of the code, despite my recollection that the planning board's previous attorney and possibly our current attorney has told the board that the planning board has no authority to challenge an interpretation or determination made by the building inspector or zoning administrator. I think it would be important to get clarification on this from Dominic at some point in the very near future. Although it is the ZBA's authority to hear and decide appeals on these matters, it would be important to know what rights and authority the planning board actually has for filing such appeals with the ZBA. So, that is it for me. Don't know if anyone has any questions or comments on what I just said, or anything else that board members would like to bring up.
Would the intent be for, you would draft a letter and have it in our circulation for the next meeting?
For the next meeting, and then if the board would authorize me to finalize it, sign it, and send it to the ZBA, I also would intend to appear at the zoning board meeting and read that letter into the record.
And ZBA meeting is June 20th.
I don't have an official application for the ZBA yet, but that's when we meet.
That's when it's likely to be, yeah. So our meeting is June 8th, which will give us plenty of time
It
to...
actually won't be a public hearing yet, John. They don't do public hearings at the first meeting.
So we even have more time.
Actually, I mean, I don't know how this process is going to work, but
Yeah.
from the ZBA side, I understand that they have to agree to accept it, and then they would have to have a public hearing, but I'm waiting to speak to the ZBA attorney on this matter.
So at any rate, I won't take too long, and I'll still try to have a draft for the June 8th meeting for the board's review and consideration. Because if I put it off longer than that, I probably will forget about it, and I don't want to do that.
Sounds good.
All righty. So if there's anything else, or if there's nothing else, the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 8th, and the submission deadline is Wednesday, May 24th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, moved.
So moved.
I think Robbie mumbled that he moves it, and I'll second it.
Aye.
Yes.